This conference will now be recorded.
So we will call me to order and stand for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
O Lord, as we gather this day to do the important business for the kingdom of the village of Owego, grant us wisdom, compassion, and understanding. Amen.
Amen.
All right, first section as usual, public comment.
Yeah, I like the comment about the park in Martin Park about building pickleball courts instead of basketball and tennis, which is there right now. So I brought some stats with me. So my name's Ben Bow. I'm a sponsored pickleball player from Owego. Last year pickleball reached 36.5 million players. Basketball was at 26 million. And I'm from basketball too. I still coach an AAU team. So basketball is still played primarily on the wooden floor. People are going to still want to play indoor basketball over outdoors anyway. So by building like an asphalt basketball court, you're not really accommodating basketball players because they still want to play the gym floor. Pickleball is designed to play on asphalt. Elmira Peloso Park just built 6 courts this past August, and by September it was 40, 50, 60 people there. So Horseheads and Big Flats are talking about building more pickleball courts that accommodate everybody in that area. The R Not Mall just built somebody just invested 70,000 to build 5 pickleball courts at the mall to try to accommodate all the pickleball players. In this area, the closest one we have is Highland Park. They put the lines wrong. The nets are pretty dangerous into the sun, and every day from Monday through Sunday, they have 30 to 50 players every single morning they're playing. And I've been to every single park. In all the sports, there's no other sports that's filling up like that. So they reached 36.5 million without any sponsorships, without any celebrities and everything. And this past December, they started up a pickleball league. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Mark Cuban, and Gary Vee, they're all invested in pickleball now. So that number of 36.5 is projected to go past 40 million this year. And so if you guys don't know about pickleball, it's getting really big because it's played with a wiffle ball and you have to serve it underhand, so you don't have to be the most athletic person to get the ball over. So now you'll get in age ranges from 20 to 80 playing, because now where basketball cuts off is once people hit their 40s, their body starts breaking down, they can't play basketball anymore. So people from 40 to 80 stop playing basketball. While in pickleball, that's still a community where they're playing every single morning, and that gives them an outlet to keep exercising. And with 6 courts, if you could fit about 6 courts in that Martin Park spot, 6 courts is big enough to run an event with over 200 players if you want to run a tournament. And I'm coaching AAU. We're not getting tournaments where you're pulling 200 players a weekend. So if the town wanted to run a tournament at Marvin Park, you could run a 200 people tournament at Marvin Park. So those are some like the argument points that I would make for pickleball over basketball or tennis. And I don't think tennis would be missed because the high school has tennis courts. So if tennis players wanted to play, they could still go to the high school, where an extra tennis court wouldn't make or break tennis players in this location.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Yep, Russ.
Could I get your name again, sir?
Ben Bow.
Ben Bow?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Generally, we don't exchange, but may I?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Bow? So in our DRI, we went through a whole bunch of things to make decisions about what we might do and what we were gonna do in the park, and, James here. Anyways, pickleball we talked about having that, and we didn't make a solid decision on it. We decided that we were gonna take the old tennis court out. We were going, do you know all this stuff?
I know some
Yeah,
of it.
we're gonna take the old tennis court out. We're gonna put a basketball court on half. We were going to originally make the other half painted up for kids to play on, and we decided not to do that. We decided to leave that blank with the idea that we might put 3. We were not talking about putting 6 in. We were talking about putting the basketball on half of it and 3 pickleball courts sideways on the other half. We still have that in the back of our minds to potentially do that, but we haven't finalize that stuff.
So if you don't mind me
Yep.
chiming in,
Okay,
we
go ahead.
actually were able to get that into the drawing set as an alternate.
Into the other side.
Yeah, as an alternate, so if that's something that had changed in the meantime, we can do that. But the idea right now is all about balancing costs. So it's in there, we're gonna get numbers for it and see how much it costs, and ideally if it lands within the budgets.
In fact, I've just been thinking about this lately, because I've been approached by a number of people in the village of Owego that have further interest in that. And I'm trying to find out, I haven't gotten around to it, or somebody, find out how big the pickleball court needs to be. And what we would need to put 3 sideways on that other side, and would we need to make that a little bit bigger than, 10 feet bigger than we have been thinking about.
So three would be tight.
Yeah.
You brought up a good point to where I'm actually not sure it was accommodated with the sun, the layout right now. So we currently have 2, but if you were to rotate it, you could have 3 on one side and then the basketball court on the other.
3 going sideways.
Yeah, you're gonna have a similar problem with the sun though with basketball, east-west. So, I mean, ultimately, if you guys have a change of heart that, maybe pickleball is more important to the community than basketball, sooner than later would be better to tell me. But as of right now, it would just be a matter of switching the notes. So we would just call one of them primary, one of them the alternate, and we have to switch them. But I mean, there is some work involved with doing the contracts and stuff. But once that's like out on the streets, it'd be really hard to try to reverse that without redoing it.
Hi,
Is this
hi
all-
there. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm here. I'm glad Ben showed up. I'm a little under the weather, so I chose not to infect people and stay home. But I know one of the concerns of the village is security and safety in the park. And you listen to the numbers that Ben gave you, and you consider the fact that pickleball, we have people from Endicott coming over here because there's such an overflow in the sport. And we had a tournament at the Boys and Girls Club a couple of weekends ago, and there were people from Cortland, from Elmira, people come into the area. So, number one, you consider the economy of having pickleball courts in town. And in terms of security, the thing that creates vandalism in parks is typically a sense of privacy and darkness. I don't think we have a darkness issue because it's a well-lighted park. But if you bring in pickleball, you're going to find that Marvin Park is going to be busier than it ever has been because there are people that are clamoring for pickleball. And we have pickleball happening at one of the local churches. We have it in the high school as one of their gym classes. So we have a feeder program there. And it is not restricted like a basketball sport. This is what Ben iterated to at age 40, you're kind of done playing. I mean, we have, if you guys know Orv, I mean, he's 86, 87 years old now, and he comes and plays pickleball at the Boys and Girls Club. So it's a multi-age sport, and it's only growing in popularity and getting more and more to the point where, a community that doesn't have it, I think is, I don't know, they aren't, when they're given the opportunity to build pickleball or build tennis courts, there's really no decision. Then we should have pickleball, and maybe some of you on the board might even pick up the sport as well. It's a quick learn for anybody that decides. But I came to advocate for Ben, and Fran actually dropped off this morning the Hunt engineering designs for it. So I know it's in the planning. Ben and I and every pickleball player in this town would like to shift the opinion towards pickleball courts, as many as possible. And you build 3, you'll end up building 6 more someday, the next DRI grant. That's all.
I would have a comment. Oneana, the main park in Oneana, they had tennis courts, basketball, and right after the pandemic, people were going down to take the pickleball lines over and over. The town of Oneana ripped up all the tennis courts that they dedicated pickleball courts. I think there's 6 or 8 pickleball courts, and they haven't looked at. So, and then basketball numbers, you have basketball, pickleball numbers. The boys club plays basketball every day between 10 and 12, pickleball between 8 and 10. The numbers are 4 times more in pickleball. Southern Tier Community Center is the same thing. They play basketball at noon, they play pickleball from 8 to noon. there's 8 players who play basketball, 30 that play football in the morning. Highland Park's the same way. The Binghamton Bulldogs, they don't have any adults playing. They have 8 to 10 playing pickup basketball. They're getting 20 to 30 playing pickleball. So the numbers in pickleball compared to basketball are 3 to 1. And all these facilities that you're looking at all the towns, every single part, the numbers are there where pickleball is outdoing basketball. And so the kids play a lot of basketball, but those kids don't want to play on a hard surface, on an asphalt surface, because it hurts their knees if they play basketball. But pickleball is designed to be played on asphalt. So that would be the argument that I would make for pickleball over basketball. And Port Dickerson just built pickleball courts and basketball courts. The basketball courts are being used. All 3 pickleball courts are being used. And they said that they messed up. They should have used a bigger space for pickleball and a smaller space for basketball. But they took the opposite, and now they're regretting that decision up at underneath the bridge up at Port Dickerson.
Well, I've heard from other residents too, and, heard that, the tennis courts at the high school are being vandalized by pickleball players. They're going in and painting their own lines. So,
We don't consider it vandalism. We consider it a necessity of the sport to perpetuate. So
Additional lines.
yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. I mean, although I do agree with the popularity of the pickleball sport over tennis. Nobody plays tennis. I don't even own a racket. And I'm not sure if I ever seen anybody in Marvin Park with a racket. But I don't think we need to eliminate totally the basketball. There's always going to be somebody who shows up with a round ball. And even if LeBron James shows up to play pickleball, he's going to want to slam a ball in a basket.
And you can always put pickleball line on the basketball.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't have access to the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Okay. So, as you well know, I advocated for pickleball on that. We first started the DRI stuff there. And you lost me completely when you told me that the NBA guys wanted pickleball. Boy, now I don't know if I want pickleball at all. That's another story. I'm thinking the same way that Charles is thinking. I know what you said, and if you have room for 6, we could have tournaments and we could have this and that. Well, I don't know if we want to have tournaments, but that's whatever that is. But I'm back to what I originally thought, which is 3 sideways on half the court, basketball on the other half of the court. And if it turns out that nobody's using that basketball, we can always turn that basketball, the goals and everything will be there, but we could turn that into 2 more pickleball courts if we decided to later. So as I was in favor of before, I am in favor again of trying to put that together with 3 pickleball courts sideways and a basketball court. But we're still working on that, so.
I don't know if that's a fully regulated size basketball court, but if it's a fully regulated, you could fit you could put lines down for 3 pickleball courts and just bring portable nets down.
It's not it's whatever size the slab is. It's not technically officially 67.32 inches. No, it's not. It's whatever it is.
Yeah, it's not Madison Square Garden.
Marvin Park. All right, no, good discussion. Anything else on pickleball from anybody? All right. Any other public comment?
I just see since Strawberry Festival's on there again, I just want to reiterate about the parking on Page Street. That they make sure that people are not parking on Page Street. If they have no parking, it's got to be no parking.
Got to mark both sides with our.
Because if they don't park on one side, they're gonna think they can park on the other.
Well, Saturday, they have all blocked off for Saturday too. And the residents can't park there, but all people that were coming for the Strawberry Festival were parking on the other side of the street, which is no parking in front.
Yeah, because they didn't post, because there were already signs, but everyone just ignored the pre-existing signs.
If I needed to get out of my driveway last year, I couldn't get out because the way people were parked on the other side of the street.
Is this Friday and Saturday?
That was a mess. That was probably the biggest mess. All right, any other public comment?
Can I offer one more thing, Mike? Sorry I couldn't attend the meeting tonight, but this could be very sad news to a lot of us. But Nadine Bigsby is resigning her position as a commissioner on OHPC. I've recommended Ira Rosenheck, who served as an ex officio and has been at all the meetings since April. I've recommended him in a letter. I'm not sure you got the letter in time because I didn't write it until late because I thought I was going to be at the meeting. But anyway, we're going to miss Nadine as an active member. She's still going to be involved as the ex officio. But Ira Rosenheck, he lives in the village, 344 Main Street. But he's the one that I'll recommend to you folks to replace Nadine. He'd be an excellent choice.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Laura nominate him when it's her turn, yeah.
I remember the process. I'm not sure if I have to, but somebody can. Okay, thanks, Jim.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
All right. Everybody else good on public comment? We'll move on.
I have one quick question. So I know that we have people here who potentially want to discuss the requiring buffer stuff about the DRI.
Yeah.
Maybe we bring that up now as far as your procedures go.
No, we can do it when you do your thing.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Public comment should come first, right?
Well, but that's part of the DRI, so.
Alright.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, it's kind of hard to talk about it, but I don't want them to miss their opportunity to talk.
Yeah, no, we don't ever shut everybody out.
Whatever the chair, whatever the chair decides.
All right, so we'll move on to pump engineering. It's all you now.
You want to bring up the drawings?
Yes.
Actually, speaking of which, I guess it doesn't matter,
We share.
Mr. Mayor? I know we don't want to keep you, can I speak for a second? I know we don't want to keep you forever like we have on other nights, but we do have a couple people from the Strawberry Festival because they thought somehow that we hadn't passed the Strawberry Festival stuff, and so I just assume we get them right out of here.
That's fine if it's quick.
What's that?
I said, that's fine if it's quick, yeah.
Did you have any other worries other than that, whether we passed
Yeah,
that thing?
you wanted us to come back in May with final approval. Officer Winter says he has to have it by April 1st in order to do the DOT and all the other permits that we have. And in the meantime, to assuage your problem with security, we decided to close Park Street on Friday night and then have traffic go down front and then Academy like we do on Saturday. We've never done that before. So there will be no traffic at all around Courthouse Square, and it will give you more room for this crowd to spread out. Plus, our mass gathering permit will be for Friday and Saturday. Usually it's just for Saturday. And so I think really that should take care of your worrying about, too many people in too small an area and having it be dangerous. So we need your final approval tonight.
Well,
You said the mass gathering permit is Friday and Saturday?
Yes.
What time on Friday?
Well, I guess it would be, we haven't decided, but at least 5 o'clock, maybe sooner, I don't know.
Because you have two different crowds.
Uh,
So whoever writes that draft,
Yes,
whoever writes that needs to write it so there's a different number of people on Friday than Saturday.
yes, yes. Right, and we did get Dr. Nichols tentatively for a doctor, who's mentioned
Okay,
that
good.
was a requirement. To have a doctor nearby. We've done them, I think, for Saturday, I'm not sure about Friday.
Well, if you're filing for a mass gathering permit for Friday night, you'll need one for Friday night too.
Yeah, right. Are there any other things we need to worry about? I mean, is that?
Yeah, keep the number fairly low on the mass gathering permit,
Oh, yes.
or we gotta have a bunch of ambulances hanging out.
Okay, we'll check with you, definitely.
Okay.
Before we apply.
Rusty?
So we voted to give you approval, so I'm just telling you, you already have approval. As far as adding Park Street, probably can do it, but you don't need to know that tonight because you're not gonna do anything on Park Street this week. So we're gonna be talking with the police chief again about Park Street and traffic, because we also have to figure out, bring around the traffic around there on Friday. So we're gonna have to do that stuff, so you've got all your approvals, we just haven't finished up the Park Street piece.
No, we have to have approval. We have to have approval for everything, so that we can go ahead and send in our DOT permit.
What do we have in our?
And we've always, you know, we've always tried to work with you to do all the right, correct things, and we will again. You know, and I think Chief Kennedy's back, Winchell's here, he was supposed to be here tonight, help me out. And,
I know that you're saying you have to have approval, but you don't have to have approval tonight for Park Street.
no, but we have to have approval.
You have approval for everything else, we already gave it to you, last
is that
meeting.
true?
What do we have in the notes there?
Yeah, could you let me know?
Stipulation, the final details will be worked out.
Maybe I'm just, beating the bush here.
And DPW, final approval by May 1st.
Yeah, so we haven't got final approval, right? Is that right?
All right, read it again, Mike.
It says, resolved, motion seconded, to approve the Strawberry Festival Parade permit with stipulation that the final details will be worked out with OPD and DPW with final approval by May 1st.
Okay, so you're saying you have to have it by April 1st, right?
Kennedy just texted us, said by April 1st, so we, and so that's why we
So by our
came,
next meeting.
that's why we came to this meeting, so that we could take care of that and not come to the May meeting. I think we've never had an incident, everything's been taken care of, we do all the right things.
We're mixing things again.
I don't see
The only
any
thing
issue.
we're giving you the whole festival like we do.
Yes.
You're not understanding this. We're not giving you Park Street till we have a chance to talk with the police chief about how we're gonna do the traffic, what we're gonna do there in rush hour on Friday. So we're giving you everything except the Park Street at this moment. So everything else, go ahead, we've already did, I think.
Okay, can we have a motion that we have approval of the board to go ahead with Strawberry Festival Friday and Saturday? I think that's what we need, is a
Yeah.
final approval.
I don't
If you
see
would
an issue with
mind,
that.
that would really
That's
clarify.
fine with me, I thought that's what we did.
But we can do it.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be wonderful, thank you.
But we're gonna give you that, I assume, but it's not going to include Park Street yet till we have a chance
Okay,
to
that's
figure out the
fine, you
traffic.
can take that up with Winchell, with Kennedy, and whoever.
Yeah, they'll figure
We'll
it out.
figure that out.
Okay, that sounds great, all right.
You wanna make that motion so that you
I think we already had it from last time.
Oh,
We did.
I'm gonna make another one.
I'll make it again. Yeah, I'll make a motion that they have the Strawberry Fest Friday and Saturday, June.
16th and 17th.
There you go.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion on the Strawberry Fest? We'll work out the Park Street thing with OPD and the DOT permit and all that. We'll vote Rusty.
I'm counting the votes here, making sure we got enough votes to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We got enough votes to do this? No.
Laura, Fran,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
and yes.
Is this for all of them that she applied for too?
No.
Just Strawberry Fest, nothing else is applied?
This is, that's a different bunch of motions.
We did all the other ones last time.
I don't know, we've done it so many times, I forgot already.
All right, we're good?
It was a lot to throw at you last time. Okay.
So we might just want to be able to get you out of here.
Unless you wanna stay.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, Winchell and Paul will help you with the rest.
Okay.
Winchell isn't deciding.
Thank you.
Winchell isn't deciding the traffic and closure.
Well, no, DOT does.
We ready for James?
James, you're up.
Thanks for waiting.
Want to go on my mouse?
No, you can just flip
You're
through.
gonna make me run it out. I'll just be.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're not gonna go through all of these things page by page. As you can see, one is 36 pages, the other one's like 70 plus. A lot of it's like, it's engineering details. It's stuff you guys really don't care about. I basically wanna, go through and make sure everything we've discussed about in the past is included. There's no big red flags as far as like, hey, we forgot this, or what are the questions, any outstanding items, that kind of thing. So starting with the parking improvements, go right down to until you get to the 2.0 drawings. So these are just existing conditions, kind of telling you what we're taking out. Right there's the first one.
Excuse me, Russ, didn't you have questions on the number of spaces behind the theater?
Yeah.
That's a good time, because it looks like that's the.
Is that it right there?
Yeah.
How many spaces do we have there?
Well, let's count it. I don't know off the
I
top of my
can't see
head.
that.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Looks like 14, and I think there's one where they stopped sharing, but so 15. So 15 total. We did lose one right there at the end during our review process. Someone caught a guide wire that is actually in that asphalt there, so not much we could do about that. Yeah.
So there's just one less than we had.
One less than we had.
Okay.
So it does look like it can be a little bit misleading because previously we had slanted on both sides. The thing with the slanted parking, however, is you don't quite fit as many vertically as you do. So between the slanted parking and the straight parking, you only lost one parking spot, and in addition, you gained a much safer drive lane.
Do we know how many parking spots are there today?
Technically speaking, none. There's no stripes on it.
It's that line.
So that's the thing. It's a hard comparison to say how many do you have today because it's not lined, and even if the lines are, I can tell you if they're regulation. So if they're out there and they're 6.5, I can't tell you had 25 parking spots and you lost 6 because you didn't because they're not legal or they're not up to code. Is a better way to say it. So I guess the big thing with this is, we did decide to pave the entranceway there.
Oh, yeah, the physical change, this is all just paint really, but.
Yeah, I mean, that's really just paint. We've decided unilaterally across all these projects to not paint the arrows. So on all of these, the notes are there that it's for, design indication only. And then, but this.
Sorry, I can't see.
This particular alley right here is one thing we wanted to fix up a little bit. Try as much as we would have liked to do all the asphalt going down to the buildings, not quite practical with as many easements and everything else. We would have to try to accommodate with that. Not to mention budget.
So, James, Mayor, remind me who owns this right in here? So we're doing this, but we didn't get to this. Who owns this in here?
The buildings.
Not I know that the buildings own parking right up to them, but there's a spot away from the buildings that gets to them.
I think they own.
We'll call it this.
So I was gonna say, yeah, that's the property line.
Each building owns.
These little dots are the property lines?
Yeah. So we have permission from the movie theater. We have to get permission from all the rest of the people to do that.
I don't know expense-wise, but it seems strange that we wouldn't get permission to, if we could, unless it's too complicated, to pave.
It's not about complication as much as it is a matter of potentially being at negotiations and stuff that will take a long time.
Yep.
I mean, by all means, if you guys want to go and talk to these people and then come back to the contractor and say, hey, we'd like to do that, we could put in a change order, assuming the budget is there. That would all be fine. But I mean, if you go to those landowners, you potentially open up a can of worms to, okay, well, am I going to negotiate now? Am I going to ask for money? Am I going to ask for you to maintain it for how long? What? It's can snowball very quickly, and so I mean that's why with a lot of the other designs you'll see we didn't actually decide to pave any of the access routes. I mean, in an ideal world, we would love to get all these property owners together, decide on the best design, pave everything, and then it would be great for everybody. That's so.
Mike, I'm going to answer my own concern. That would appear to be what we have to do, and if sometime, somehow later, we want to try to put a flash code or something over that, next piece, we'll have to do that on some other money in some other way. Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
This is a county lot. So as part of the bids, what we did request, or at least we tried to separate them so that you guys could see the cost. So what is the county lot, right from that divisor. Yeah, please, thank you. To the left is all, we have that broken out in the contracts for them to give us a number for that, and then a number for the other side. What you guys are seeing as far as the transformer and the pad up north and those in that handicap spot right there. And so there's no indication there, but the next 3 spots, including the handicap, those are where the charging stations are going. That is per Ellen and Evolve, yeah. That is per Ellen and Evolve as of like 1:30 this afternoon. I managed to get these on the drawing. So that is the absolute latest information that I have. One thing to keep in mind is that is not part of this project. So we are bidding this out. The contractor that you guys are paying is not building that. They are simply going to, with my assistance, coordinate between the contractor and the Evolve people who specialize in their own contract to build this stuff. The goal being that you don't build a brand new parking lot just for them to rip it up to put in these charging stations 6 months later.
Let me ask you, now, do they maintain the equipment?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, there was a bit of negotiation back and forth as we kind of tackled 2 different routes of the same thing. One prevented a better.
This grant is better than the original grant where, charger-wise, everything's covered except we pay $500 a year or something. In flood
Are you paying
insurance.
insurance?
Yeah. Part of the flood, like half of the flood insurance.
I think that's one of the final things they're trying to work out is where they have to put elevation wise to make it both functional and within insurance, right?
So James, is the breakout spot where we square it up there, that line right there? Have we negotiated with the county about?
We have not done any negotiation as far as payment or anything like that. That's outside of my purview as far as scope.
So we talked to the county about this?
Yeah, so we asked James to just get 2 different prices, right, for this public, I'll call it public parking lot, and then a separate price for the courthouse parking lot. And the county knows that this entire lot is probably last on our priority list as far as, when the bids come in, if we have to cut stuff.
Because obviously we're gonna be paving this, but the county still owns this piece that we're gonna pave, so that has to be all cooperation with the county. They want us to pave it.
And they've seen all this and approved it.
Okay.
Yeah, I had an exchange with, Ellen was, the emails she sent me this morning, we made sure that Gary was on it and Brittany was both on it, so assuming that they looked at it, they should be all caught up to date.
Everybody knows that if the bids come in and we have the amount of money we're supposed to have and they come in perfect, then this is what'll happen.
So one last quick question. So what are we, I know we're gonna have the 3 spots up on the top there. So what are we gonna do? Is there a line there where we're gonna stop paving, going up to the electric spots? How far up there are we gonna pave?
Ideally, those guys will come in and build their stuff at the same time.
We're hoping to
that we're
do it with them.
If not, what we'll have to do is try to coordinate. All you really need to coordinate is the underground electrical.
Yeah.
So those guys can come in, if they can just put in conduit, stub it, cap it off, and go right to where their concrete equipment is, or their electrical equipment will be on the concrete pad. That's all they need to do, and then we pay right up to it. So that was my experience on a previous DRI project when they wanted to do something similar. The problem is they couldn't figure out the routing of the conduit before we got to construction. This is much simpler than that was.
So James, are we putting other handicap spots in there?
Not currently, just the ones that we have shown. So,
So I mean, that's gonna be electrical ones, I mean,
no, so there's just the one. Yep, just the one down at the bottom, and then as far as the painting and parking that we're showing, there's nothing to really show that they are the electrical ones. And I don't know what the equipment is gonna look like to actually be able to show it on the drawings, but that handicap is kind of like my, my focus point. That one and the 3 spots to the right are the intent of those being the charging stations. So then you'll have 1 handicap electrical, and then you'll have your other handicaps at the far part. If you guys would like, we can add additional handicap at the other end of the parking lot, but we figured since there aren't really any places over there in order to go, it's unlikely they're gonna park there to try to get anywhere.
Yeah, I think they originally put those there for easy access to the courthouse.
Yeah, and that makes sense for that side as well. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you would see it on both ends, but in this case, Park Street doesn't really lead anywhere. It's kind of a residential area.
Well, they've had that special crosswalk there. They put in.
This one's tough.
Yep. So this is where the first thing I'll start is by reiterating that the arrows are there because as an engineer, I have to make sure that the flow of traffic is able to be accomplished and is designed as such. I'll leave that there. So we are.
We're not gonna paint the arrows.
Yeah, we're not gonna paint the arrows.
Yeah,
'cause-
signs.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, well, yeah. So there are, we're reconfiguring the entrance with the bank's blessing already. So currently that is an exit only. It's being transferred into an entrance. So now
As the bank
they have signed off.
signed off on that.
Yes.
One-
So
One lane?
one lane coming in, that's it. So that way you'll no longer be able to exit unless you go through the bank's kind of area there.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we still have the other two that are pseudo used as kind of two-way, not really designed for that currently, but.
So, Mike, you're on board with all that bank stuff? Yeah. So obviously, we're gonna take we'll say a parking spot out. So the bank
On
can
the street,
get, so the bank and or people from the lot can get out from their drive-through.
They're gonna lose probably one parking spot.
One parking spot on me, but we plan on that.
Yeah, but people can
We're
always
not going to
exit
pay,
too.
all right, so if the bank's gonna allow us to come in over here one way, but we're not gonna pave that?
No.
Okay.
It's all relatively new pavement.
Yeah, I saw it, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the bank is paid pretty
Though
much.
honestly, there is a small missing section. So technically, right where this part starts with the dark, we do have to pave from there to the street.
Where we're
Right
talking,
there where no G7 is.
up to the street there,
Just from this side though, not that side.
okay.
Just because in order to, their one request, originally we had them kind of merging over and then going out. Their one request was instead of doing that, to cut it over and let it go out straight, which is, no real downside to us except for, so now when we do that, we'll just have to add a little bit more pavement. One thing I'll remind you guys to not forget is they did say that they were potentially willing to throw some chips at you guys for painting, because they were gonna paint their parking lot already anyway. So they might be willing to, assist that somewhat.
And of course, that's going out to Church Street over there, and we're gonna pave that.
Yep.
Okay.
And then,
We're gonna pave this up behind John's too.
yeah, so we elected not to put any parking bumpers or anything like that, even though there are some retaining walls there. But we did add the concrete stairs there for the police department to lead down over it. So that'll go, down and over the retaining wall.
That's getting rebuilt. Just the stairs. The stairs are?
Just the stairs going over the wall.
Right.
Cool.
Awesome.
See that corner, I think, is where Chris, what's his name, says he owns.
Yeah, he does. So we have, I don't even want to say this, but gentleman on Church Street believes he owns 20 or 30 feet of that square there. So that's a point of contention for us. The other thought I have for you is, of course, if we have the lines there, we can still do something else. But we usually plow the snow up in that corner up there, but suppose we can find our own way to block that up and we do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want, we could certainly paint over that, add a stripe and call it as a designated snow plowing area. Yeah, seems a shame to lose the parking spaces.
Yeah.
So, when you did your survey or whatever, how many spots we had there and how many we're gonna have now?
No, it's the same kind of thing before, where the spots aren't really there and they're not regulation, so.
There's no concrete bumpers in there, right? Right. Good. No.
All right.
It's easier to plow, yeah.
Bingo.
It's time to scroll.
Yes. So this is Court Street, Lake Street infrastructure. So we kind of have these pieced together. Technically, these are two projects for the DRI. It is the sewer line replacement and then the parking lot improvements for Lake Street. We are going to be disconnecting all of those rain systems. What we are currently doing is that island in the upper north, will be filling that with gravel and using that as a very large dry well. So all those roofs should connect to it and should fill that up, contain it, and infiltrate it as it goes over time. We are putting in a new 10-inch sewer line, so that should help all of the, the residents through there to get that fixed up. Is Nate on? I thought I might have seen him with his beautiful newborn baby.
Yeah, yes.
Where's the pump station at? There's no pump. I thought it had to be, I thought it was.
Well, there is a pump somewhere in here.
What are we talking about?
The sewer.
Sewer line.
Had to be up in the alley, right? I thought it was gonna be in the alleyway, or somewhere close to that.
I have no information about any pumps.
It's gravity fed
As
then?
far as I'm aware, it's all gravity fed.
Okay.
So the only question is, I know we were working with Nate previously, we got the easements updated to him and sent to him later than we would have preferred, but I don't know if we've heard anything back regarding those. So it's one thing to keep in mind that
He's online.
I don't know if you guys will be able to award the work without those easements. You might be able to award it and put the easements, or put that thing kind of at the end of construction until you get the easements, but.
There's Hank. Hank's over there.
Yep. So you can't award the work until we have the easements in place. So I don't.
How are the negotiations have gone? Have we reached out to owners and everything?
No, not yet. I didn't really start getting back to work until about a week or so ago. So we do have the form easement drafted, and my expectation would be to try to get letters out to property owners this week. But it's going to be, I don't know how many of them are in town. I don't know, if they're away down south. It might take a while. I mean, this type of actual easement acquisition process could take several months.
I want to ask a quick question about the dry well. This dry well is gonna take the water off of all the buildings on Lake Street?
The ones that were previously dumping into the sewer. So I think that was 4 or 5.
James, can this be bid separate from the other parking lots?
At this point, not so much.
So until we get all those easements, we're up in the air.
Yes, it would be. So one thing we could do is put this in as some sort of, I could talk to our contract guys and see if there's some way we could put this as a separate breakout. I mean, we could chop this off, so to speak, and then update the contracts and stuff. We're already a little bit behind, more behind than I would like, as far as getting these things out to bid, but I mean, I would agree with Nate. I don't know if you guys can get some sort of preliminary approval so that you can award it, or if it has to be the full, I mean, is months the worst case scenario? Is it the average? Is it, I mean, I think all of us were, hoping a little bit that those acquisitions of the easements would go pretty quickly, because we're building something that's gonna assist all these property owners at no cost to them. But that's not really my area of expertise, so.
It might go smoothly, right? But it's just one of those things you can't count on.
Especially since we had told them before that yours to take care of.
Yeah. So I'll discuss with my department and see if there's some sort of wording we can put in the bid specifications to say that. I know, for example, the last DRI project we did, we had to put in a contingent that was, we had to provide an easement to the DEC because we were doing some work close to their flood wall. We got rid of some of their monuments and we gave it to them. That project is 2 years done and they're still working on the easement as far as the paperwork. So potentially there is some level of, wording or agreement we can get in there. Again, there's a chance that could affect your bids as well. That if a contractor comes in and says, okay, well, half of this one is split up and that one's separated by something, I don't want to get bogged down in this for 2.5 years or whatever. yeah, I'll try to research that a little bit more and get you guys an email with some additional information.
Okay.
These are really just grading plans and
Yeah, let's say.
making a mess.
Detailed stuff here.
Yeah. Well, rather trying to keep it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. All of your parking lots across all of these sites, they're all just dry wells. 2 dry wells, 3 dry wells, 4 dry wells. The one that we're putting in at that parking lot is probably about equivalent of 4 of them. So, you know, we are working on some assumptions. You know, we're gonna try to check the soil and stuff once we get it dug up, so we don't have to spend $10,000 on the geotech. But considering half the town is built on dry wells as far as drainage, we believe it's a pretty safe assumption. So this, we are on to Marvin Park. So you can see the layout here has been tweaked a little bit. Essentially what we did is we just tried to tighten in that engineered wood fiber surface so that we get
playground.
Yep, this is the playground. So we tried to tighten in that fiber surface just so that we can save a little bit of money on, you know, general square footage. In order to make this fully ADA, we do have to provide the ramp, which is shown there, and we do have to provide a small path you can see kind of goes off to the bottom. You kind of see it better in the next drawing, but essentially that's just going to be a stone dust path. You know, they're going to dig it up, lay some gravel, and put a nice clean stone path because apparently just having grass does not make it ADA accessible. So, yeah, that's the bathroom. This is yeah, it might be on the grading plan actually. That's easier. If you keep going down, it should be 4.2. Up. Past it. One more. Yeah.
Oh, this back here.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll be little more than just a clean, flat surface. Without it, technically the park is no longer ADA accessible even with the ramp that goes to it. We are putting in a small, you know, under drainage system just to make sure that that wood border that we put on it doesn't create a pond-like effect, you know, by your playground. We are just going with the small slide, the large slide, and the kind of worm thing. One thing that I did put on the drawings, and so I'll need you guys to keep on top of this once we get closer to construction. We did pick out those items, but we did put a note in there to say that we're gonna verify and final order them. The advantage that that gives us is this equipment tends to go on sale every season. So ideally, we could save money, you might be able to get more than what it's worth as long as it fits within our current footprints. And you guys can potentially save money or, you know, get a nicer piece of equipment for cheaper. So once we get closer to that thing, we'll try to get something to you guys as soon as possible so you can go have it approved so the contractor can order it. Yep. One more. Got the bathroom. The bathroom is pretty straightforward. We're not doing anything fancy on the outside. We're just grading away from the building. We'll have a uniform concrete pad in front of it. The structure itself will have automated hand sinks, manual flushing. It will have hand air dryers. All the technology features as far as security are going to be removed and reinstalled. Yeah, it'll be a nice bathroom. We decided to go through with just the manual locks. Our electrical guys are, if you guys had previously mentioned you were concerned with vandalism, that kind of thing, electrical items are much easier to mess with than just manual hardwired. Do you have a question?
Yeah, is this gonna stay the aerial electric or are we putting underground?
It's gonna stay aerial. Yeah, normally we would universally put all electrical underground, but it seems silly to put it down underground and then bring it back up when we can just disconnect it close it off, close the circuit, and then reconnect it once we're done. So pickleball, basketball. So currently you can see that the basketball court is shown as the primary, new improvement on this area. We're gonna add some benches and some trees just to, make it a little bit more nice for anybody who's observing or just hanging out there. The left side of the court does currently show 2 pickleball courts, but you can see that they're labeled as A's, which are some of the alternate nodes. So essentially what the contractor will do is they will provide a quote for the pickleball courts separately, and then a quote for the entire court with the basketball as one. So we can choose whether or not we want to add the pickleball or, do it at a later time.
Can we fit 3 in there, James?
Possibly.
I think you could.
Yeah.
Just looking at it.
So that, yeah.
So more of the question would comes down to this is pretty much north-south here. So now you have 3 pickleball courts going east-west, which is an ideal for your son, as he pointed out. We could potentially rotate this whole thing without much problem, but then you're likely going to have a similar problem with basketball. So ultimately, it's your guys' decision. I think these guys made a pretty compelling argument for the pickleball being advantaged. Whether or not you want to, remove the basketball court completely is your guys' priority. But yeah, if we have a general approval here, we'll rotate this and and I'll try to squeeze in another court on there. That basketball court will be regulation size.
Which means we could put 3 pickleball courts on it.
Yeah.
Someday. Or line it for them.
And I'll double check. I think we can include that as part of the alternate.
We can't fit 3 pickleball courts on the basketball because there'll be a pole there. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to do that. For example, if we move those 2 pickleball courts slightly farther apart to put one in the middle, and we were trying to do that on the other side, that other pickleball court would go right into the pole, yeah.
Only if you centered them. So I think the way he was describing it was that those would be mobile nets. They wouldn't be nets that would be there all the time.
Yeah, portable nets that you just put on the board. Yeah, that's not
Or
a
would
bad
you put
idea.
like PVC pipe down in the ground and then?
Well, I think you would leave it up to the pickleball clubs to receive their own portable nets and stuff. But the idea is that the lines are there. That's what they really need that they can't provide themselves is without painting over your brand new basketball courts. But if you provide it ahead of time, all they have to do is then say, hey, we want to have a tournament. Can we get a permit for you guys to do whatever? Then all they have to do is provide nets.
So will the pickleball courts be painted? Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of the difference in pricing as far as that, and then supplying the nets and at least for the 2 courts, supplying the nets and the anchors for the nets.
Is there not enough room to flip the pickleball courts the other way?
No, not. We couldn't have both. We can't have everything north-south. Yeah. Yeah. But maybe if you did something fancy with the nets, but everything I have laid out is standard details for our athletics. I've never seen anything like that, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Hop on to the next one if we have no other.
So do we want to rotate this? Or not?
Do we want the basketball going east-west and the pickleball going north-south?
Yeah, it'd be best to give the people playing pickleball the advantage of the sun not being in their eyes.
That's a popular thing.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is that personally, growing up in a suburb where I play basketball a lot, you usually can get away with half court also. So like, you could always play. Yeah, you could always play on one side or the other if you prefer.
I think rotating would be a good idea.
I think so.
Let's twist it 90 degrees.
I'm thinking 45 degrees.
Blind never.
Yeah, there you go.
The whole court on a lazy Susan.
So this is the entryway, pretty straightforward. We really decided to go down and do minimal here. We're gonna add some more trees to really liven the area up. We've got a couple garden areas, and the new sign, which will be on some of the details farther down.
So we had a problem, because we had a problem before, because the sign was, to be too expensive. I'm not talking about the overhead sign, I'm talking about the sign inside. Do we have a problem with that being too much?
The original sign was almost $200,000 for the large overarching. Beyond that, we had reduced it. There was an issue originally when they got us the quotes for the parking areas. It seemed like they were charging us what I would consider a pretty large sum. I think they quoted us almost $60,000. So you think about that, over the 4 parking lots, we were only spending $400,000 on. I mean, that's a lot for signage. So we kind of cut down some of them, and I had them remove the installation, because if you guys have contractors in here already, it's gonna cost them nothing to have some guy go over there and dig a post that's already out there for whatever else. So.
Okay, so the flower beds are like either side of the entrance there?
Yep, so there's actually 3 sets of beds here. So these ones will have, you know, some, and there's a planting plan with all the actual names for flowers and stuff that I don't know off the top of my head, but we do have a couple lighting features that as well. But we've got the 2 planting beds, and if you scroll up to the sign, we'll have one around the sign as well. One thing to keep in mind with that as far as maintenance is if that gets, we're kind of putting it pretty high off the ground, but if that does get overgrown, then your sign is going to start getting obscured. So just something to keep in mind. This is the skate park layout. So, and you can also see a small connecting trail, which we'll see in the next slide. That's from Canal Street. The actual plans for the skate park are farther down. We have sent them out to all interested parties, as far as, you know, people who have chimed in previously and given input at any phase of this, and we've really gotten a resounding, you know, thumbs up from everybody regarding this. I think people are really excited about it. So the only thing we're really adding here is kind of our small seating area off to the side. We'll have some nice pavers, a couple benches, and a pathway. Ideally, this is, you know, the place where people like me sit while my son goes on that, so I don't break my neck trying to keep up with him. So Canal Street, this is a bit of an up in the air item as far as we're just waiting for the DOT permit. I am in contact with them. We haven't got any contact information back yet, which, you know, a lot of times no news is good news, so I think it's just a matter of time before they send it through. But as soon as we get that, you know, officially, we can put in, you know, the crossing with the 2 sidewalks. We did have to kind of slope this. The path does look kind of weird. Primarily, the reason we have to do this is because we are in a floodplain. So overall, our construction, we have to provide that we're not displacing any water. So I can't just dump a bunch of dirt there and level out a straight path, because that water gets displaced somewhere in the city, somewhere in the town, somewhere else. So we're taking advantage of the natural slope and just adding, you know, a little bit of minor grading on that hill. We do have an alternate there requested by the state, in addition to you guys, for a decorative metal fence as opposed to a vinyl chain link.
Yes.
So you guys ultimately will have you'll have both options there once the contract goes.
Say that one more time for me.
This is the fence along the front of Marvin Park.
The whole fence along the front?
Yeah, so you've got about 1,300 linear feet of fence. Currently, it's called out as a black vinyl, just a 4-foot chain link fence.
Right. So who's recommending?
The state.
State.
So
Interesting.
Was
there somebody that wanted that?
Department of State.
I wanted that 6 months ago. I didn't like the chain link fence. I'd like that, but I didn't want to pay for it.
They were make it look more pretty.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it's kind of the same thing as before. We're happy to put an alternate in there. You have to kind of be careful putting too many alternates. I think we're in a good place as far as a couple alternates being, you know, add or minus. But if you have a whole project that's like kind of a la carte, so to speak, contractors are going to buff up all their numbers because they can't guarantee which parts they're going to get. I mean, it's really the Wild Wild West right now as far as bids are anyway, but we'll do our best to stabilize it. So we'll have some alternate numbers there as far as that's concerned.
So we'll see what it costs to have pretty or.
And we already know the answer. It costs too much.
Right.
We like it.
At least we'll have a number.
Yeah.
So this is really just erosion control stuff and, some drainage designs. Basically, we're just sloping things away, downhill, that kind of thing.
Let me know when you want me to stop, if you want to stop.
I think at this point you can go all the way down to the skate park plans. Yeah, slow down. They should be right after the details.
It's Fred's blank page.
That should be one more page down. There you go. So, one thing you guys should try to, if you guys had questions and people are asking about this, one thing to clarify is that they are getting a permanent, long-term concrete structure that is going to be very durable. It's going to be used by bikes as well as skateboards. It is smaller. So one thing I'm a little bit worried about is that this all looks really great and everything, but it's probably maybe half of the size of what's there currently. So
that's really small.
Yeah.
it's not as small as you think. Primarily because if you see the flow that we have there, we have a lot more ramps. If you think about what's out there, there's 2 vert ramps that are this wide. There's a couple boxes, there's a rail. We have basically the same amount of obstacles with the same level of difficulty with a better level of permanence and a better flow design by a professional skate park designer. This is one of the things that's going to give you a lot more, as I talked about before, it's value per square foot kind of thing. Actually, yeah. You guys will need to decide. You did have a request. We do have a sign, that we're going to put up. You guys will have the graphics for Brian Rufner Memorial Park that's going on that. Some of the locals did request to have a small plaque or something with their name on it as well. Yeah, I thought it was a bit of a weird design request considering it's really just a focus group, but
Like the committee or something?
yeah, I think it was primarily the steering committee. So, but if you guys could draft a formal response to them, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Without a lot of trouble, can you tell me the size of that rectangle for the skateboard park? Is that easily done?
Yeah, I have it. If you want to scroll up to the survey, I have it laid out. Yes, I mean, right there's a pretty good idea of the new versus the old size. So I'm pretty sure we're 150 by 47.
That's what the new one is?
Yeah. And the previous one was like, so you can see it's not quite half, it's probably closer to 3/4, but yeah, I think it's 146 by 48.
I see what you're saying. It's the same length, but not flat.
Yeah. And then the new one, I think, or the original one was 70 feet, I think.
70 feet wide.
Yeah. But it's just point concrete, really.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I mean, that's the thing you could always, so that's the thing you could tell them too, if it really becomes some sort of issue. There's no reason you guys couldn't put in a strip of 20 feet asphalt over there if people just want an empty space to freestyle on. I wouldn't recommend it just because of floodways concerns. But
Anything else?
I believe that is all the plans.
Other than all the details stuff.
Yeah, unless you guys are really eager to discuss plumbing and valves and really talk over some DOT details there. So we're in the middle of kind of designing the next portion of that. If you want to bring up if you don't mind just pulling in Google, and we can just look at the waterfront area. I have no real agenda as far as the riprap, or riparian buffer discussion that I've kind of been tossed around. I'm hoping that someone else will be happy to guide that conversation. Is anybody here for that? No? No?
Well, I have an interest in it, yes.
Okay.
I don't have a presentation ready.
Yeah.
I do have questions.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, shoot away.
Because I'm in the learning phase too about riparian buffers. I know a little bit. They produce shade. They, in terms of I'm part of the climate smart communities.
And one of the big focuses is, flood resilience. So in terms of that, the DEC, has suggestions of zone 1, 2, and 3 that start with near the water body with the trees. And, as you pull away from that water body, like Owego Creek, or Susquehanna River, you have your smaller shrubs, and then you have your meadowland and so forth, and all that helps with resilience because the roots absorb nutrients, they absorb some of the water. It really helps downstream with their flooding issues. And so we're just learning more about this and wanted to make sure that your plans dovetail with our goals for the committee.
So I'd say in general, we absolutely do. I mean, the primary function of what we're doing on river, my other DRI project is riverfront, so I kind of keep getting this. The river walk here is, and reinforcing the planting areas that have been washed out. So we do have Alon who is not on here tonight, but we have a sub-consultant who is looking into that. Once we have our design development set of plans, so like a real basis, we'll start coordinating with the DEC, like we will need permits and stuff from them anyway.
I see.
So all of that stuff will be tied into them together. I mean, Alon knows what we're trying to do. Ideally, they're going to be putting in, as flood resistant plants as possible on that. They want to see all that stabilized and not get washed away. Other than that, we're putting in a hose bit so we can clean it off, at least in the intermediate. But so I can say that all of that is definitely being considered. We'll be happy to, I guess I can't speak for the board, but as long as the board is on board, we have no problem, trying to keep you guys in the loop. I know we have a lot of vested parties in a lot of these projects, so I see no reason why they can't be informed.
Do you have locations and sizes of the riparian buffers that you're considering?
No, that would be something the DEC will have to help us kind of lay out. Right now, essentially all we've done is we've walked along it, we've had our surveyors, and we've identified the areas that have been either previously eroded away or are susceptible to future erosion.
You're talking about the Riverwalk area?
Yeah.
Yeah. How about any other areas for proposed riparian buffer?
We don't have anything outside of that area
That's
as far as our scope.
Good. That's good, because we might, and we don't want to conflict.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I thought I saw an area that had, from Talbot Street to the Black Bridge. Did I
Not
not
super familiar with all the street
drawings?
names.
Yeah.
So she's talking about the creek banks.
Oh, you're along Margaret Park.
Okay,
That
so yeah,
trail.
that
Yes.
trail, we don't have anything very dramatic planned in that area. Currently, all we're really intending to do is take the already well-worn paths, establish them, with a more firm surface that won't be washed away, and in spots where we can move it slightly uphill. In general, I mean, we'll have a minimize our footprint type approach to that area. I mean, it's meant to be more of a natural habitat, enjoying the outdoors kind of thing. So, I mean, we're not going to be putting in big planting beds with lots of trees or anything like that. We're really just going to be stabilizing a surface and just connecting the two ends as far as the trail goes.
May I ask also, along with the board, why the area from Black Bridge to 17C was not considered in trail development? I didn't see a picture, a layout of that area.
It
Do
is.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Black Bridge to 17, yeah, that's part of it.
Is that part of it? I
That's
just
part of our
didn't
plan.
see the diagram. But if it is, I've noticed changes over the years, it seems like trees are being knocked down and, it's, it didn't seem very riparian buffer to me. So I'm hoping that will, be stabilized, like you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
so
you're talking this spot up here.
Behind Marvin there?
Yeah.
Could you go back down, Mike? Jerry, you wanna know? Yeah, go all the way down to the. So the thought process here is, some more yet? Till we get to the road house. Okay. This right here is a village street. Division Street or whatever the name of it is. I can't remember if that's another division. Okay, so that goes up here by these old ruins. And then that street goes over here where, I don't know if you can see that there. And it goes up, even though it's not much of a street, it's not really a street now, but it's still a village street, and it goes up here another hundreds of yards up farther. Mike, want to go up a little more? It goes up even farther. Yeah, it goes up into here, right about in there. That's a village street. So that's probably where we're going to put our trail, because we can't put it along the creek.
Put your what?
Our trail.
Oh.
I think that's what we're talking about. That's where our trail up the creek is going to go.
And why can you not put it along the creek?
Because if we're going to have trouble with the state, and we're going to have trouble with it being undermined along the creek.
Where it's
Where's
being
out?
cut out.
Yeah, and also it floods up there, and that's just not. Okay. Now there's still a trail there that people can walk, but the official one that has to be handicapped accessible, or all the things that will be on that, probably on the street.
Yeah. So one thing I'll say too, though, is with us not being right up against the stream, what that does, I'm vaguely familiar from my oil and gas days of riparian buffers. So if you have your trail up farther stream than downstream, you actually create an additional buffer between the trail and the stream that will erode. So if we stay farther in and you kind of put a riparian buffer on both sides of the trail, as opposed to a lot of people ideally would love to walk right along the water, and that would be perfect, but it does make it more susceptible.
I see it being cut out tremendously.
Yeah, so ideally we don't want to put a new trail in just to have it get washed out by a bad storm. So yeah. We are trying to push that up, I don't want to say upstream, but uphill as much as we can to accommodate those flooding concerns. Yeah. But ideally, we'll have something, more substantial to really look at and sit and talk about within the next couple of weeks. That's kind of the next phase we're heading at those projects. So.
Just about that part, when we were at our meeting, somebody had talked to somebody at the state, and they were concerned that they didn't know about the project, but I think that they had heard that like it was a new trail going in as opposed to something that already exists. But
yeah, I mean, whenever you say that there's a new project going on and they haven't heard about it, they're always going to say, oh, I'm worried. The problem is we don't have anything to really show them yet. So ideally, as soon as I get those development drawings down with you guys, I'll start the same coordination process with them. If you get them involved too early, they kind of look at you and go, oh yeah, that's great, let me know when you're done. Because they really don't care about anything until it's done. Because if anything changes between the beginning and the end, then what they were looking at previously just isn't valid. But yeah, I mean, even as far as the two kind of kayak launches that we're doing, we're all way against the river. We have to coordinate with DEC regarding all of that stuff and how much they're going to officially let us do. We currently don't see any obstacles, but that's why we coordinate with them.
So what's the next set of projects to work on?
So our park is the first one that I'm trying to get as close as I can, primarily because we have some steep slopes that we're working with, and we need to get access to these, which also means, as I mentioned previously, lots of fill. So trying to balance that with flood is a bit of a challenge. So once I get that site functional, ideally the other ones, a lot of them are already laid out. They're roughly drawn on paper. So we've got the kayak launch. I guess I don't know how to distinguish between the two. We have the one at Draper Park and the one off of, is it River Street?
Yes.
Yeah, down River Street, yeah.
So there's going to be a launch at Draper Park too?
Yep.
Yeah, well, more of a stop.
Yeah, I mean, they'll both kind of be the same in nature, where it's going to be an area where you can bring your kayak up on the shore and then have access to the streets up next to it. The only difference is the one on River Street is already there. We're really going to clean it up and just make it a little more inviting as far as an area is told, an area in full, whereas the one at Draper Park will be completely new, inaccessible And that's primarily due to some of our steering committee input that that would be a safer place to put a tie-up that's gonna connect people to downtown.
Might have been Kevin or others were talking about here at the old boat launch, which will be our new kayak launch. There is a giant boulder in the water that's in the way there, so. Would you tell me about that, Kevin?
Yeah, have you looked at there's a cap that was a cap, is now in where the launch area is, that rock, it's about 6 or 7 by 3 or 4 feet. It needs to be just picked up, moved over and put back where it started.
Yeah, I mean, as part of that whole area, what we'll do is we'll kind of try to shape the boulders to best protect the bank there, as well as give you guys access. We are gonna leave some of that stuff, largely in the way per se, because we've discussed we don't want people backing in and trying to put large boats in this, but we do want people to potentially be able to stand and walk through this area. So you can kind of, kill two birds with
Now,
one
we're
stone.
just talking about that one that's in the water.
Yeah.
Along the bank, we want a bunch of stuff so you can't get in.
Yeah. So, but again, a lot of that's gonna be subject to, DEC approval, and final design layouts. The good thing is, we're not really doing any, what I would consider structures, and what I don't think that they are gonna consider structures, which means we should be in a minor permit level. And mostly everything we're doing is really just reinforcing the banks and stuff and just making it a little more easy to walk near.
Anything else?
Well, we
I
can
believe
go
that
to
is
the fire
everything.
station tonight or not?
I would love to. I don't know that I have much to give you as far as that. I can tell you that.
Progressing.
What's that?
It's progressing.
Hey, yeah, I can tell you that it is progressing. We have met with we do have the contract with the MWBE certified restoration person. They have sent us a rather large packet of information that kind of directs how they're going to do the layout. So now we're coordinating with them for our structural team to really look at it and say, okay, this is what they want to do. Do we have to rebuild this? Can we, just reinforce some areas? I know one thing they were talking about is whether or not it would be more cost effective to potentially remove that whole top and set it down and then do it all on the ground as opposed to building scaffolding. That's kind of the stuff that they're all discussing at the moment.
I have a friend who used to be a resident and was interested in the clockworks or repairing the clockworks and wanted to see if they could have photos or anything to repair the clock.
I'm more than happy to share any information that the village approves. I want to say that there aren't any clockworks in there anymore. So I have to double check what exactly it is that's in there. What's that?
I have to look at the pictures. I think you're right. I think it's just a face, but.
Well, I think it's electric now, right? Or whether or not it's connected anymore.
But I think the old system is still in there, but dormant.
Okay.
Unused for 40, 50 years roughly.
They would like repair it.
Maybe.
So what I would recommend is that they take a look at the pictures and they're probably not going to get access to it. Unfortunately, it's considered a hazardous area because of all the dead animals and stuff in there. But to come up with a presentation of some sort and bring it and pitch it and say, this is what I can do and convince people that it's a good idea, really, because ultimately it's going to come down to dollars, right? I can tell you that right now our restoration architects are really only looking at aesthetics as far as the rebuilding of it. They're gonna get their hands on the motors and stuff that are in there at some point, but that's not anything that I have real information on.
Would it be able to be like removed maybe, or help removing it, or just like
The
get
fire
some
department
sort
would
of.
know better than I do. I can look at, and you guys should have a copy of it as well, the previous inspection report from one of the roofing companies. Yeah, so their recommendation for that interior part was it to be closed off to everybody, not let anybody go in there until you're ready to do something, because likely you would have to clean it all out, get rid of all that stuff in order to make it a space that someone can occupy.
And then if you do that and then it sits there for any amount of time, it won't just happen again. And then you have to pay to do it again. So it kind of becomes a repetitive issue. I mean, if it were me and I was going to recommend him on a personal level, what I would tell him is to try to be involved in the construction aspect of it. I mean, once they clean that up and they take it down and they start doing whatever that part is, if he can get in there and have some input, you know, as far as the village, if the village approves, you know, his level of work on all that, I mean, that's the best time to really do it. They're taking it apart, then you're in there and you can say, okay, well, this is reusable. You can kind of pick off the pieces, or at that point, you can look at it and say, well, no, it's kind of a, you know, not really feasible anymore. But it's kind of risky on his part at that point, because then he's probably not really getting paid to do anything until whether or not he understands if it's even viable. So,
Is there any chance we're gonna get that done this summer? Before next winter?
I'm 100% shooting to do that. That's my goal. I mean, we had it by the end of March, early April, and so set drawings from all those guys. I mean, typically for these kind of projects, you shoot between 90 and 120 days. So I mean, even if you think about, you know, fall technically doesn't start until what, early to mid
November.
I mean, they could do construction for a lot of that. I mean, even that, they only really need to get the roof repaired and stuff in order to really get into winter. And they could do some of the interior stuff, but I mean, your guys' DRI grant says that all this stuff needs to be done by the end of 2023. So I'm pushing everything as hard as I can to try to get that, you know, to meet those deadlines. I will say there's no reason to like super buck at that, because even if you guys are substantially complete, you can usually get an extension just to kind of close things out.
So that's the push.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had some delays with, you know, some of our sub-consultants being basically wiped out from COVID for several weeks,
And COVID in general, it took us forever to get started.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think I've been on this for almost a year at this point, but glad to see we're almost at the point where we're going to be actually building something finally. So.
Okay. What was our final decision on a concrete slab in Draper Park for the potential of a small pavilion sometime?
Yeah, how do we skip over that? I'm blaming you. You have to ask.
Oh, no, wait, we haven't done that
That's
yet.
not, so, yeah, it's not in the plan.
Are we gonna talk about that stuff tonight?
No, so,
Let's set a project.
Another time.
yeah, so ideally, if things work out well, I believe your guys' next meeting is the 17th.
Yeah, whatever, it's on the
20th. Ideally, I will have that set of plans and a preliminary set. You recall the first time I kind of showed you engineering drawings, and then it's really just rough lines on it, but at least it'll be outlined. As far as the concepts, that ended up being a kind of like a paver area as a flat area with no roof. We did discover that regardless, there is, did we ever find that final lease?
Oh, the
deed
thing?
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's been found, Nate hasn't done it.
But we did determine that flat pad is not a structure, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's fine, but we can't build any structures there, so. Even if we wanted to build
Nate
it,
still hasn't looked at it.
So
Nate has not done anything on it.
yeah, we did hire an abstract company to pull all the deeds for Draper Park. There's like 3 or 4 total, and only one of those deeds contained a restriction on building structures. So that at least a good significant portion of the park itself, you're unrestricted, and I think what you can build on it. For the one that had a restriction on it, there's state law, a statute that says deed restrictions have to be regularly updated by the persons in whose favor they run. And the deed was from the 1920s. Doesn't appear that those restrictions have been kept alive for the with the subsequent filings that they're supposed to do. So I think there's a good argument that you're not bound by it anymore. But whether you choose to honor that or not is going to be up to the village board at the time there's an actual project being presented.
It's a good point though, because I'll tell you, the term structure is not as uniform as you might think from
that is all that I have after almost an hour and a half, so.
Oh, thank you.
But I hope that's updated for everybody and
Yeah.
see you guys again in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, can I ask, what time is the weekly meeting?
What time is it, 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock.
10?
10 o'clock, and it's Friday and it's here?
No, it's.
No, we do it all via Zoom. Generally speaking, those weekly meetings are required for the DRI to provide the state an update so that they know you're getting some sort of progress. So honestly, they're usually about 20 to 40 minutes of me talking with an occasional question. Yeah.
Can you send me a link for the?
I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. All right, so we already did Parade Permit Strawberry Festival. Let's talk about the Marvin Park large private event. Similar with the rest of your report. Thanks, man. Are you guys for the Marvin Park event?
Yep.
Do you want to give her a pitch again?
We'll stay where we are and why we're here. Basically, we're the SCA, which is a medieval recreation group. We get together and have events going on all the time, all over. Some of our people got involved with horses, and they wanted to have kind of a regional horse operation. And over here, Skyline operates a nice place with 22 stalls in it. And we checked into this, and the prices were reasonable, so we've gone to the 4-H and Skyline to get their permission. We've received their permission to use the facility over here. And we're looking at what we have available and for the number of people that might show up and whatnot. And we're looking at the possibility of talking to y'all about getting, I don't know what it's called down there, but the little tin.
Pavilion 7.
What?
Pavilion 7.
Pavilion 7 area. And the associated woods with that. Now, at this point, we don't intend to use it. We're asking for it, but we would suggest we come by and let you meet us and greet us and say hello and see that we only have one each. And set things up for possible future use, because these things have a tendency to grow. We did this the first time we've done this here. We're looking at getting somewhere between, say, 50 and 100 people, maybe a little more. Since September, the planning stages, we really don't know how many are going to end up coming at that later date. But if we would do it 1 year and it's a big success, we'll do it another year and then another year, as long as everyone's happy with the situation. Now, we would have the horses put up in stalls, and people would bring them in either on, probably on Saturday morning to Friday evening. And we're going to have we've arranged to have the the electrical outlets and the water outlets set up. We'll pay for those. And then on Saturday, all the activities would occur. And they have some ring jousting and parading, and I forget all the horse activities. I'm not involved with horses. But then in addition to that, we have our normal activities, which would include archery contests, axe throwing contests, fencing, and what we call heavy fighting, which is where we put on heavy armor, have wooden swords, and beat each other up. Okay. It's jousting. We haven't figured out how to make it safe. You know, the traditional Hollywood jousting. You know, the horses are kind of finicky like that. So that's why we say ring jousting, where you go pick off rings.
We're very safety oriented. We have marshals that, you know, for each activity, there's somebody that is a safety marshal, basically. And we have rules and regulations for everything.
It get rather extensive.
So you might need a waiver from the police department as well. Because you may not know, we have an odd local law that you cannot discharge a firearm within the village, and archery is a firearm, which I learned because we had Cub Scout camp at Marvin Park.
Okay, thank you for that.
They had to come bless our archery stuff.
Is there somebody specific we need to speak to?
I think you need to be there.
Yeah, I talked to the chief.
Talk to the chief.
Kennedy. But
Yeah, the Owego Police Department.
Okay.
Yeah,
Contacted
Charlie did not mention it, so.
it's a weird law we've had forever.
Which is one reason we're here for a meet and greet, to find out where the rough edges are. Okay, we'll definitely take care of that. We have 5-6 months here.
Okay, now is this a fundraising event?
No, ma'am,
No,
we are not for profit.
We're not for profit, it's a private event with some local invitations, we're inviting Skyline Corral in to see what we're doing because we're.
So it's not open to the public?
No,
No.
not at this time.
Not at this point, simply because we have a group of about 20 people who run this, and if we had something like the Strawberry Festival, we just don't have the manpower.
Right. Everything's volunteers.
Everything is volunteer. Now, excuse me, we have a paid board of governors in California, and they get reimbursed, no salary but travel expenses to come to the board meetings. Okay. We
You
already,
fundraise for that?
what?
You do the fundraising for that?
No, there's membership fees.
Okay.
Okay. To give you an example, we are international in scope, and membership would be, I'd say 50,000 off the top. We have a major event just north of Pittsburgh every summer. There's a private campsite there we rent for 2 weeks, and we come in, you unload your car, you set up your building, you park your car 2 cornfields over, and then you're medieval guard for 2 weeks. Okay, and then we have a university there with all sorts of classes, and we have combat the second week, and it's fun. But we have insurance, liability insurance. We have it for the 4-H. We already put in for it. There's no problems with that. We one of the things we wouldn't get it for, we haven't committed for the 7, is the fact that we'd have to get a separate insurance rider for you, in addition to what we already have for 4-H.
Our interest right now is to find out if we could get the availability of Pavilion 7 and the Tim building, sided building, and the grassy area in front of the sidewalk in front of the buildings. There's a tree area there.
There's a sidewalk behind the 4-H buildings.
Yeah,
and
Fred
that's-
knows this better than anybody, he's DPW head.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
And-
talked to you on.
Right. And that area, we're not going to use it at this point, but we're looking
That
at,
would still be the Fair Board's land on that side of the grassland where you're asking. Out
Okay.
back.
we can still use that?
Yeah, they would have to.
This is a treed area next to the pavilion.
That part is the villages, but where you're talking behind where.
Yes, we've got all the-
That's all Fair Board.
We've got all the approval from the Fair Board from the sidewalk back.
You're good to go.
So we just were interested in speaking to you about the pavilion and the tree area in front of the sidewalk.
That's fine, just.
What you would like to see from us if we did actually want to use it?
Well, you'd have to, pay for, first responders. Ambulances, fire department, police.
So basically, this is like the Civil War reenactment, but with medieval times.
Right.
Correct. And no gunpowder.
Can I have their names?
John Ankrum, Ankrum. I filled it out on the sheet. right
And I'm
there.
Donna.
I'm sorry, and what, ma'am?
I'm Donna,
Same last name?
yes.
Thank you for telling that.
So the public wouldn't be able to come and view this, right?
Not
Not
at
this
this
one,
point.
no.
So, anyways, you were estimating 100 people maybe, or something like that.
Yeah.
But if it's not public, who are these people, members of your group?
Yes, they'd be coming in from all over.
So they're gonna come in and do the stuff, and whoever, and they're gonna be watching the stuff, or bring families, or whatever they're gonna do, I don't know how
Right.
it works. Okay.
So most of them will come in for the day trip. But for example, we have local groups in Binghamton, Syracuse, Ithaca, Cortland, Rochester, 2 or 3 in the Buffalo area, and then strung out through central Pennsylvania. Each one consists of between 20 and 150 people. In large cities, we have large groups, okay? A number of the horse equestrian type people are coming in from Pittsburgh. We also, the East Kingdom, the country's divided into about 20 kingdoms. East Kingdom, which is New Jersey, New York, and New England. Since this is relatively close, it's a 2 or 3 hour car trip for them, they're bringing their horses up from that direction also, or are planning to. So basically we come in, I've been doing this for 40 years, okay? There's almost always an event somewhere
that you can drive to on any given weekend. Okay, so when I was really active, I was doing 2 a month. Okay, a bike practice a week.
We regularly do Camp Barton Boy Scout Camp. And unfortunately, they're being sold, so this will be the last year we possibly can get in there and do that.
Maybe.
We're looking at for alternate sites, and this is a possibility for us to do it regularly.
So we're talking Marvin Park area, right?
We're talking about the 4-H buildings in the back, north
On the
end,
back
by the
side.
school.
Because there are, I mean, we have residents that frequent the park daily, so.
That was the other side of the park.
They're talking the backside of the park.
Okay,
Just
so
the
it could be cordoned off?
Just-
Fair board
Yeah.
property.
Okay, all right.
Well, we want to ask you about that,
Okay, so
coordinating off.
We
Yep.
coordinate off the sidewalk,
Sidewalk.
the
So
walk,
they
the walk,
can't
the
drive.
walk that goes around.
yeah.
The outside walk,
Drive
yeah.
there.
Which,
So you want this for 3 days, so you don't want anybody walking around there for
Just
3 days?
Saturday.
Just Saturday on that, just Saturday on that.
They'll be coming in Friday night for horses and camping. All our activities are Saturday, and then the horses will be leaving Sunday.
Okay, so
They're
you're-
traveling.
I'm sorry. So you're figuring out camping there or?
Some people are, yes,
With the horses,
with the horses.
they're on Skyline side.
yes.
They only want Pavilion 7 is for like their luncheon and after the ride. Everything's happening over at the.
Fair board?
Yeah, fair side at the ring.
As of now, we're not asking for that. If it blows up and gets big, we might ask for it.
Right.
But if we're gonna have to pay for first responders and all kinds of other stuff, it's not feasible for us.
That's not feasible now.
Do you have your own safety in place, or?
We have safety marshals and.
Somebody
we
gets
have-
hurt, you just,
we-
multiple times, you just.
Yeah.
All of our people have to sign waivers.
Some liquor on it.
Beyond, no,
But I mean, if somebody gets hurt, are you expecting we go EMS come?
if illegal EMS comes, we expect that whoever gets hurt to pay for it.
What do they do in medieval times if somebody got hurt?
Generally, we don't have people getting hurt.
Okay. Well, it's plastic, so
On
it's.
the odd chance somebody steps in a hole and breaks their ankle, they call, or they go to the emergency room themselves, it's not, and we have waivers we sign that you're responsible for your own safety.
If you are a fighter in any form or manner in our society, you have to sign saying, I know this is dumb, I know this is stupid, I want to do it anyway. Okay? Yeah, it's a lot safer than high school football.
Well, at all of our high school football games, we have an ambulance sitting there.
But we're safer than that.
Rusty.
Are you somewhat local? Can we find you?
I'm Ithaca.
Okay. So I assume what we're gonna do is we're gonna, look this over, talk this over, talk about with our attorney, talk to superintendent and think about this and probably come back to you if we're interested at all, come back to you with what other questions we can think of, because this is just brand new to us right now. So I assume that that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
So we know how to contact them.
Yeah. And just so everybody's clear, your request is just the pavilion and the grass.
The treat area there.
Yes.
Mhm.
If we request it, we're not requesting it at this point.
Right. And then just on Saturday.
Yeah.
And then just letting us know that you're starting this over there, so it might get bigger.
In future years.
Right. Not this year.
Not necessarily for you, but just so you know, one of our concerns is we own most of that park, and the Agricultural Society owns another piece of that park, we call 4-H. And it's one park, but it's technically two separate pieces. And every time we do something, it gets messed up about where people are supposed to be and which piece they can be on and what they can do. So I'm just telling you, that's another thing we're going to be discussing and talking about.
We understand that the 4-H property stops at the sidewalk. Okay, and I think it runs around to the chain link fence over on the side. We understand that. We have all our activities planned out to keep it in that, strictly in that area, and definitely police our people stay out of your area.
We've talked to Charlie Truman and Kathy Knoll and the board there. They've approved all our activities. And Skyline.
This is
Yeah.
our, I'm just telling you,
Yeah.
this is something we've had trouble with and it's our concern and we'll have to.
Well, that was another reason why we wanted to come and let you know what we're doing,
Yeah,
and
we
what's
have-
going on, since you are part of the front of the park there.
Definitely appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we don't find out.
Yeah, they don't always communicate well with us.
Does anybody else have any questions for them about what they're looking for?
Bathroom facilities? The 4-H has 3 bathrooms, 1 male, 1 female, 1 handicap.
We rented the cow barn.
We're in the cow barn, so that is enough for the size crowd we're anticipating. If we get too much bigger than that, nothing else available, we bring in what we refer to as porta castles. The biggest expense we have, the big event we talked about north of Pittsburgh, is the porta castles. We rent about 150 for that event, and they get cleaned twice a day. And you don't know.
We don't have 10,000 people though.
Yeah.
We'll never get that big.
Yeah, no, the 4-H has some bathrooms in their building.
Yeah, the 3 of them. We've rented that building and the Skyline building. The horses.
The stable one.
Stable one. Don't have to worry about trash. We clean up everything
And we've gotten approval from Skyline to use their dumpster.
Okay.
So.
And we walk the grounds and make sure everything's clean.
Yeah.
Usually better than when we come in.
We got a lot of old Boy Scouts, and the idea is you leave it better than you found it. So.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming.
Okay, thanks for listening.
Sure.
This is kind of a last minute entry. Yeah, somebody has to do it. This is a great, little league parade for Saturday, April 29th.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, hang on. Good.
We're, I'm not sure where we proceed from now. We're going to talk to the police chief about the archery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because regardless. if you're
Yeah,
doing
but
it,
hey,
that'll
we have
be-
anything. His okay has to be given before
Yeah.
anything like that happens. Oh, what's the next step we have to do with you? Get back in touch with you
We're
about
gonna
that.
get back to you.
We'll get with you. So our next meeting is the 20th, but we'll get with you before then.
Okay, you're back to us on that?
Yeah, Fred had your number.
Fred, sorry.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
But your question, whether we have to be back to the next meeting.
You don't have to do that.
If you do, you have to dress up in your.
You can always
Be careful,
Zoom.
he'll come in his armor, so you can always do the Zoom.
Yeah, sure, we are online too.
We have, this big thing down in Pittsburgh, one of the biggest things going about it is the mass field battle. Okay, because there's 20 kingdoms and they align one side to the other. It's called the Pennsylvania War. Okay, so it's one set of kingdoms against another one.
They got other business.
And the highlight is across the field, 500 people in armor.
You and Russ make a good pair.
Are you worried? No, because you got 600 going the other way. Thank you.
Just throwing it out there.
Our next board meeting, we might have to have a round table.
Yeah.
Step up or-
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the Little League parade application for their April 29th.
I second.
Any discussion about it? It's the normal Little League parade. Starts at the police station, ends at Hyde Park. Fun time. We'll vote, Rustin?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
And yes.
So what's the date? Soon as I'll be done.
It's
29th.
Saturday.
8 in the morning.
Usual.
Starts at 8. Usually still really cold.
Yeah. And they take care of DOT or the street or whatever.
Yeah, and it's like not, it's only 20 minutes or whatever.
Just somebody else takes care of
I don't know, fire police does it.
it. Well, we do the thing, but we don't get to, if, I don't know if DOT needs a
No,
closure
I
for
don't
that
know,
one.
yeah, because they don't really close it.
Yeah.
Moving right along.
All right, well, should we have Nate? I know we got department heads, but should we have Nate explain these local laws?
Started changing everything.
He's still alive on there?
I don't know.
Are you there?
There you go.
Did you put Hank to bed? Hello? Well, he's getting a real microphone now.
So you guys are actually pretty faint, by the way. I think the microphone must be pretty far away from the board. You can actually hear the public a little better. But what was the question you guys asked?
It's closer to the public. You wanna do the local laws? Or explain them?
Yeah. So I think I've actually talked about it before. One is adopting the required New York State uniform building code update, and the other is repealing your unsafe structure law. And the reason for repealing your unsafe structure law is because we have incorporated the unsafe structure proceeding into the building code update.
You went out for a second there, Nate. But we got you back.
Okay, your camera's also down.
Yeah.
So building code update required, unsafe structure optional. We did include in the building code update a new unsafe structure proceeding. So we were just repealing your now unnecessary unsafe structure procedure as a separate standalone chapter.
So do all of our, does everybody understand this, what we're doing here?
Yeah.
So we're replacing 92 because the state tells us that we have to change that to some degree. We're getting rid of 98 because it's redundant, and anything that we had to have on that, we're putting in 92. Yep. Unless somebody has a pile of questions.
I have a question. Page 14. I wanted to talk about something I saw. So yeah, so it says page 14, number 5, and it says that outdoor events where the planned attendance exceeds 1,000 persons, everybody has to get an operating permit, and the code enforcement is gonna issue operating permits for events, and so I believe, or like, so who's issuing the operating permit? Do they already exist? What are the fees? And like, so the Strawberry Fest and anybody who's gonna be organizing events is gonna have to do this now. Is it already in place, and
Oh, these are about food permits, I think, right?
no, it's any outdoor event over 1,000 people.
Yeah, I mean, the code enforcement officer would be issuing it. An application would be submitted to the code officer. Let's see. If you want a fee, you would need to set the fee. I would suggest doing that by resolution. Actually, it also says the fee would be set forth in section 18, rather. So it's been a little while since I've.
In that section, it says that we can like set the fee structure by resolution once a year or whatever, as whatever you.
Yep.
Well, no, I mean, there's fee for violations, because somebody asked about what the fees were for violations when like, businesses or the streets and sidewalks are closed, and that was in there on page 24, that was a $250 day fine. But anyways, but my question really is about that is, just when we have like outdoor events like the Strawberry Festival, they're gonna have to get an operating permit now when we pass this law.
From the code officer.
Yeah. Does it already exist, and do we have paperwork to issue a operating permit?
Yeah, that's the type of thing that would need to be developed. The code indicates that the application would be on a form as required by the code officer. So I'm not sure if the state has yet developed sample forms for that. If the state hasn't, I would assume we could find one from another municipality in New York that might have been doing this prior to the code update. But that shouldn't be a terrible lift for something like that.
That wouldn't be in effect for what we already let go
Well,
for.
going forward, after you pass the law, anybody would have to, have that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like what Laura is saying is that we're about to pass a law, kind of like the marijuana law. We're gonna pass a law, Steve, and that we're not prepared to have the details for yet. And the law says that you have to do all these things, except we don't have them in place. Are we doing it in the right order? How are we doing on that?
Yeah, let me just double check to see if this was an optional piece under the state model law or not. So that's page 14. So that is section 92-10. Yeah, so this particular requirement is a state mandated requirement. It's right in the model law that the state requires you to adopt.
So Nate, we adopt that law tonight. And then we, at our leisure or whatever, we, do the details after the fact.
I mean, yeah, this draft has been, I think, in front of the board since at least January. I mean, this is the type of thing that it just requires an operating permit in a form prescribed by the code officer. It's not up to the village board to dictate the outline of the application. That's for the code officer to do. And then, it's to be in such sufficient detail to provide the code officer enough information to determine that an operating permit should or should not be issued. It's the procedural type of, day-to-day implementation that is delegated appropriately to the code officer.
So they already have stuff like that for all the other things that are coming in. Have you seen anything like that, or no?
We don't have
I can't
All
speak
right.
to them.
Okay.
Just,
Not
these
that-
standard
okay.
forms that we
New.
get from New York State.
I mean, they can write it up quick.
Okay, we can talk this all out, but the concept is easy. Either we can pass this law and get those details after the fact, or we can't. And I believe Nate's telling us that we can. We can pass this law and then get the pieces in place slightly afterwards.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the way the state has written this, it just requires an application in a form acceptable to the code officer. So you don't even necessarily need your own application. Just say to somebody who needs an operating permit, submit a letter with all your supporting detail information, and that could be acceptable.
We've got a number of events set up for this year.
That's what I was wondering about. Does that apply to the events that are already set up?
It would apply to probably anything in the future at this point.
Future, so not for events already set up.
If they haven't yet occurred, then I think they would probably need to apply for the operating permit. But that's just an administrative procedure. It's not anything that I think is meant to be overly obstructionist. And again, I can tell you the state requires you to adopt this law. If you choose to not adopt this law, you'll be out of compliance with the state building code department. This is effectively an unfunded mandate.
Once you have state, so it's written, so it shall be done.
So there's no changes to the like page 24 has like if somebody wasn't complying, and the fees and like the process of like what would happen or like, what we can do to remedy the situation about, non-compliance. Yeah, or like taking taking the property or demolishing properties, or what's that language?
Well,
Okay.
page 24 is about the enforcement mechanisms for violations. You have to issue an order to remedy. The state prescribes that language. You have to do an appearance ticket. The place where you'd have some flexibility is in the penalties section. But everything else, which sets out the dollar amount that somebody could be fined, but everything else is otherwise optional, such as the injunctive relief, that type of thing. But the order to remedy appearance tickets are required. You have to follow the state form on those things. If you wanted to set a lower maximum dollar amount, you could. I would suggest leaving it at the 250 because the judge ultimately has discretion going up to the 250. If you lower it, you're basically taking the judge's discretion away by restricting further what the judge could potentially award. When it comes to demolishing houses, the unsafe structure procedure we're using actually requires the village to go to Supreme Court to get an order. That's something that my office has done a number of times, and frankly, at the time that a structure is unsafe and a Supreme Court judge is willing to say, yeah, that thing needs to be taken down, I think the village should be awarded its costs for demolishing and legal fees and other expenses associated with that demolition. But it's only ever going to happen if a Supreme Court judge orders it.
Okay. All right. Those are the things I was looking at when I was looking at it. Thank you.
So, anybody else have any other questions about the laws?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass local law number 1, 2023. Entitled Local Law Repealing Chapter 98 of the Village.
Yeah.
What it says
As presented on the.
as presented.
A second.
Any discussion about that? We don't need a seeker for that, right, Nate?
It's a type 2 action.
All right. See, I'm learning this. Rusty?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Fran? Charles?
Yes.
And yes.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve local law number 2 as written on them.
Okay. Got a second?
Oh, second.
Okay. Any discussion on that one? Rusty?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
And yes. All right, Nate will stop yelling at us now. All right, so we'll go back to department head reports. Well.
Make it short and sweet. We responded to dispatch to 115 calls. We responded to 106, 8 mutual aids to us, 16 mutual aids provided, 38 volunteers went out for calls. We held the second CPR class for the village office and DPW. You guys have that information, gonna hopefully gonna purchase something for AED wise. Correct? Okay.
Yeah, I asked Jim about the possibility of getting a grant for that. He said he tried, couldn't get it.
Okay. So.
I know he was in the market of getting them also, but he's gonna use the, funding from the training tower.
Okay, but you guys are gonna do something.
We need to get.
Here for.
Yeah.
To back up that.
Yeah, good tool. Yeah.
For the garage.
So don't let the training go on the wayside. We received kudos as listed there. No known real issues with the ambulances miles as described.
Anybody have anything for EMS? You're welcome. Everybody, thank you, as usual. I didn't have to call you last week, I almost did.
Oh.
Well, my wife almost called you.
Okay.
I was not doing good.
I was wondering why you never texted back.
It wasn't great. Tracy?
The only real thing I have is
merit raises for the two gentlemen that are stepping up at the sewer plant as I step aside.
Should we do those now? Ron's not here to make the motion.
Does everybody understand them? Dirk is taking over as the plant operator and is getting his proposed raise. It's all public knowledge how much money he makes from $31.50-ish to a $7.50 raise to get him up closer to what he should be as the plant operator. So I'll move.
I second.
Okay. Any discussion about that?
So you're done next week?
My official date's the 24th.
Shall we vote? Rusty?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
And yes.
And the other gentleman is Josh Bowen Judson, and he is going to probably, he's in training and he's going to step into the, assuming he passes the correct things, he's going to step into the, what we call it, plant operator.
Plant operator.
Which is second.
And then he'll be the crew chief.
So.
The crew chief position with us.
That, yeah. So at the moment, what's his salary now? 20-something.
Yeah.
And we're proposing to give him a $2.50 hour raise. I so moved.
I second.
All right, discussion on that. Rusty?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
And yes. Anything else?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your service.
No, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
I said that low enough so it can be recorded.
Ready?
Ready? We've been potholing it. The storms have been coming through. We've been working pretty much night and day. A few lights on Liberty that were out. Also development are fixed and ready to go. We did a couple days in the cemetery, hauled out a bunch of tree branches that fell down. So that's pretty much it.
Anybody have anything for DPW? Haven't gotten
We're good.
any complaints about roads, so good job. Other than, North Avenue, would like the street sweeps.
When it quits snowing and salt and everything else,
When they
by the
start
end of the year, we will
putting
sweep
dirt
North
down,
Avenue.
Yeah. So that's all I've heard lately.
In the springtime, we do it in the spring. We'll sweep
Well,
North
we
Avenue.
gotta buy a street sweeper.
That's gonna come up to the next meeting, so, Rusty,
What is
this
that?
might go for you.
What's that?
So next week, you're gonna be deciding on your street sweeper, what you're gonna do. It's gonna come out for the next board meeting.
Yeah, we gotta get on that, because spring's coming. People are asking for.
Can I
Trees,
test
side
drive it?
corners.
What's that?
Yeah.
Are the bids, coming in?
Yes, you wanted to have the bid go out, so that you had time enough to think of what you wanted to spend it on.
So where are the bids?
They're in the
Well,
paper.
because we had two different things. We had,
Right.
we had the two different sweepers, and the bids we did before weren't correct, and we were gonna do the bid, which we
But
don't.
we did it because you didn't want, or because the
No,
board.
we had to do a new bid because it wasn't right.
You're right,
Then
but
we
that's
said- we
not
said
the
we want-
reasoning why.
But then we said we wanted to do two bids, one for one thing and one for
We
the other.
had, you're right, Rusty.
Is that it?
Yep, you're right.
Okay, well, quit busting to me then.
You're wrong, but you're right, but I'll give you that. But yeah.
Sounds like a Billy Joel song.
So Fred, did
Yes, sir.
did the board ever figure out how they're gonna pay for whatever they buy?
Not, that's the problem, that's why I'm throwing this onto the board.
So we need to know what the bid prices are, the
We
two
talked about that the
options.
first time.
Since it came back.
It's gonna be the same. We have not gotten anything from anybody else.
Okay, so.
But so it's gonna be the two bids, the same as before,
All right.
as of
So
right now anyway.
Can you send something that has those numbers on it again?
117,
for the used sweeper, which was a 2019.
Is that, because
That's
Judy
what-
was gonna try to keep that available for us, is that still?
Yeah, they're both available still, yep. And that would have 45,000 miles on it.
You said 2019?
Yep.
Okay, that's written.
Curb tender. And that was 117 with no warranty.
Remind us what that one was.
Other one was a,
Brandon.
what?
Brandon.
Brandon.
Guess ours was it.
Like a demo or something brand new, but.
Thank you.
Or something.
Elgin. And the other one's a brand new Elgin with stainless for 170.
I think so, somewhere in that range. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, we'll get new bids, but.
But here's the kicker. Well, the Elgin is brand new. They had it on their lot. They're giving us $50,000 off it of their bid because they don't want to keep it on their property. They don't want to keep paying for it. This making sense? You understand, Russ?
Yeah, so it's like a demo, it's got.
No hours.
basically no miles or nothing.
No, it's never been a demo.
Okay, not even a demo.
Nope.
And that's at 2022 or one or.
It's brand new. 2022.
Okay. Okay.
And that's with a full warranty, and don't ask me what the warranty is.
Yeah, well, we don't have that.
Yeah.
Right, the bids are still out.
Right.
That's what we got last time, so probably about what we'll get this time.
Correct. I've not heard anybody calling me. So you have to decide which way you guys want to go.
Question is, where do we get the demo?
Right.
Yeah.
Which we'll have the next meeting, think about that.
Well, we're gonna
Start
get
looking at a bond?
We're getting 50,000 back.
We have 25 of it. And we can do it bi-yearly. We don't have to come up with the whole one shot. And you had an idea or a game plan of what you want to do on that, right, Rod?
I got a game plan.
Okay.
Tell us
We can do by
Tell us
yearly.
your game plan, right?
Can we do by yearly on either one of them?
No, just the new one.
Just the new one, okay.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
so wait, so Fred, so the person selling, or the company selling it is basically offering financing for it?
Pretty much, yeah. How to drive? Can you explain that? Do you remember?
I don't remember exactly.
I don't remember 100%. It was months ago when you and I talked about this. Yes, they were talking about something, a yearly that we'd have to budget for to pay for it every year. We had to pay X amount of dollars.
Yeah, ask them for copies of the paperwork, because if it's a lease purchase, which is probably what it would be, where you just pay annually and then, at the end of the term, you pay $1 and you get it. So that still has to comply with basically the financing requirements. And we have to do a good faith outreach to banks to determine whether you can get a better interest rate through a local bank or something like that than whatever interest rate they're offering. But we need to see those docs because that's important to the board's ability to determine, how exactly they're going to pay for it. I mean, it always comes down to that stuff. I think we talked about it a month or two ago, similarly when it was like, how are we going to pay for this? If we're going to bond for it, I need to know. If we're going to do something else, I need to know.
Okay, we'll figure that out next 2 weeks. Rusty?
I just kind of want to get a general feel about what we're thinking here, because I know Freddie would kind of like to know this, that. So obviously, it's going to matter on where we can get the money and how we get the money. But let's pretend, what?
What it's gonna cost us.
Now, let's pretend we can that we have the money someplace, or we can get the money, or we can manage to put 85 2 different years. Do we want the new one and the better one, or do we want the other one?
What is your preference, Fred? I would think the new.
The brand new one,
I know,
the
Fred.
warranty and everything.
Yep.
Yeah, what
That's
does
what I
the
would.
board think?
I agree, I think the warranty is important.
And the stainless steel will help and all the rest of it.
It's a heavier duty chassis. It's not a freight line chassis.
We can afford it, sure, we don't feel right unless we're spending a bunch of money, so.
I mean,
So
for
anyway,
$60,000, how I looked at it, for $60,000 more.
So
no brainer.
there's your, half of your answer, Fred. The board is looking at doing that, so it's worth bothering to get the paperwork that Nate is asking for.
Yeah.
It looks like that's what we're gonna do.
Yes, we got 25,000 down.
We better wait till.
We have the 25 already.
We gotta
If we had
wait.
the other 25 from,
We gotta wait till we get the bids first. We can't get.
Oh, no, all this stuff is, we're just trying to give you a general feel about where we're, the direction we're
we
going.
do have the 25 from the town. We do not have the 25 back from the county yet for our buyout.
Okay, so we're gonna have 50% up front.
Yeah.
Oh,
Essentially.
50,000.
50,000.
Yeah, yeah, 50,000, yeah, excuse me.
Maybe,
We at least got 25.
Yeah, we at least got 25.
because the county likes us a lot right now.
Anyway, that's coming up, next couple of weeks, we gotta figure that out.
Yeah.
We go over.
It's just, did we wanna do, I don't think we're up there. Did you gotta do anything about that Roth that Roth thing?
Oh.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I guess we
So explain that to.
fill everybody in.
Hang on.
You know about.
Well, the village right now is part of, the deferred comp, New York State deferred comp. But I guess when they signed up for it 20+ years ago, all they signed up for was the deferred, part of it. And there's an employee now that wants to, take part in the deferred comp program, but not do it pre-tax. As far as his investing, he's investing in it. The village doesn't, invest at all for the employee. But for him to be able to do that, the village has to approve this.
You're approving the plan that we don't put any money into it, it's employee only, but we're just authorizing the plan. We have one plan, Tracy's in one plan, but this guy wants to be in the other
Right,
one.
20+ years ago, I went to the village and they become part of this plan. Well, like I say, they only did the pre-tax part of it at that time, which is what I was asking
You asked
for.
20 years ago, and you asked for that.
That's what
Nobody
I
else
asked
asked for
for.
anything, so that might be why they chose not to do it.
Right. No other employee's ever been part of this, retirement, program. And now this employee knew it, it's a new employee at sewer plant, one of your guys wants to, but he wants to do it, tax, not pre-tax.
I'll motion that we approve this, New York State Deferred Compensation Plan, Roth Contributions Participation Agreement, for the mayor to sign this agreement, yes. For the employees to, do the thing starting January 1st. As presented, yeah, this year.
2020.
So somehow this is getting back. Contributions can be made.
Somehow.
So the beginning of this year, yeah.
So the employees, I'm sorry, we have a second.
Second, I'll second that. Get you realistic.
So, if I'm understanding it right, the employee is putting all the money into this, or
Correct.
board is not.
Correct, the village doesn't contribute anything at all to it. Correct.
So I don't know anything about this, so I immediately have all the questions that I won't help, which is, why did they not do this? Is there something we don't know? And is there something, because we don't know what we're doing, and we don't know what this is about, is there something that we're getting into that we don't understand?
I don't think the Roth was around 20 years ago.
Well, that's the other thing, I don't even remember. I mean, it was New York State deferred comp, which at that time was pre-tax and everything else when I joined way back when. So maybe this wasn't an option, and since nobody's ever asked for it, when it become an option, it's never been an issue.
What's that?
I have an IRA saved for my retirement.
I don't know, I don't know anything about this, I don't know whether
Yeah.
this has any implications for the vote or not, I don't know anything about it.
I don't think it does.
No, the village could, like businesses and stuff could contribute, to their employees and stuff, but the village, the village doesn't have to. And so but the employee wants to have a retirement account, and we can
That will be in the next negotiation.
But we can, whatever New York State has like this thing that says like, you know, we have to allow them to do it even though we're not gonna contribute. Or, you know, we weren't asked to contribute.
Right.
But it's a nice thing for people to be able to retire, and, you know.
Mm-hmm. All right, should we vote? Anybody else have any other discussion on that? Rusty?
I hate to vote for stuff that I don't know anything about. I'm gonna take your word for it, yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Ian, yes. Sign it. Sign it. Okay. Anything else? Department heads? That was your one thing.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Mike, are we gonna have any problem with the union about, doing this? Allowing an employee to do this stuff? Okay.
You got anything from police chief?
He is back in town and, I talked to Rudy today, the chief was not available, and he said that they didn't have anything.
Okay.
So is he back here today?
Don't know, because he still has health things down there, his doctor down there, so I don't know. He's not sure yet. It's imminent, but I don't know.
Fire?
The fire chief did not request anything. I asked him, and he said there's nothing at this time.
Nothing for anybody. Payment of bills. Everybody get them? Any questions? So moved.
Second.
Rusty?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Ian, yes. Minutes?
For the minutes, page 10, under my report, there's the date of the Climate Smart Committee meeting. It just has like the question marks to fill in the date. So the date of that is, February 27th, 10 a.m. And so just adding that into it, what we approve as presented.
There is a place here, but I can find it, where we did something, but it doesn't say that somebody moved it and somebody seconded it. So, I don't have it right. Michelle McClaren, representing Catholic Charities, it's on page 2 at the bottom, is requesting parade permit, blah, 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 subsequent meeting, blah, 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 roll call vote, so, it doesn't say the motion.
I'll look up the.
Yep, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. Did she make the motion?
She did, I think so.
Second.
Okay. All right, so approve the minutes with those corrections. Rusty?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
And yes. Next thing, trustee reports. Rusty?
No report.
Laura?
So, for the OHPC, I move we accept the resignation of Nadine Bixby and thank her for her service.
Second.
Any discussion on that? No more to go. Rusty?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Fran?
I want to say no, but yes. I want her to
Charles?
go.
Yes.
And then, I don't know, if, you recommend or.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm supposed to, or you're supposed to, but.
So I'll recommend Ira Rosenheck to you because they, you know, Commissioner
Right.
selected him and he's been attending the meetings. So Ira Rosenheck to become the new commissioner on OHPC, in taking over the term that Nadine Bixby had.
Is she gonna be the commissioner or just?
Yeah, they're called commissioners.
Oh,
That's just, yeah, that's their
Yeah.
name. Oh, yeah, I would,
Yeah, so
What's that?
Ira Rosenheck. So yeah, the term that, or the slot that Nadine had filled for that.
term or whatever.
Yeah. And then maybe you.
I would nominate him for
Nominate,
that.
yeah.
You know.
So is this a mayoral appointment or a board appointment? Probably. If it's a commission, it's probably a board appointment.
Probably. We should vote.
Yeah, we should.
So let's vote.
Laura's making a motion.
And I nominate him.
Nominate him. If he makes a motion, I'll second the motion, or how we put it there.
So let's vote on that. This is Ira filling, Nadine's term.
Yes.
Rusty, Laura,
Yes.
Fran,
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
And yes. Okay.
So he'll just need to come down and,
Yeah,
swear
he's
in
saying-
the book and, I think he already gets the emails and stuff like that, right? He'll get his stuff. Okay, so then, they just had their meeting and something's got approved. There's a big project on front and porches and stairs and stuff, and then a sign on Main Street for new business. And they were looking over the laws and maps and getting a new survey of the, smart properties. So for the Cornell surveys are from like the 70s of like the house histories. And so it would be looking into getting a grant to have them come through and do it again. We'll have it digitized in like a, up-to-date fashion, and stuff. So we've been talking about that. I sent them the new code, like, laws that Nevins had, so that they, can see how that could affect them. The Climate Smart Committee, task force met, and we're plugging away at things, so, we're looking over all the sections and seeing like what, like low hanging fruit of what we can do for points, and, so we'll see about coming forward with, stuff, like, so we might, tax, different, things that, commitments and stuff, that say we wanna purchase like, efficient vehicles and stuff, or look into them when we're making purchases, if they're, if they can save us money. You know, and get, like, if we can save money, in getting like high efficiency vehicles, then we could choose getting high efficiency vehicles, right? And, so anyways, it's a wide range, and so they're talking to the Strawberry Festival about having, recycling, happening, and, soil and water, somebody already purchased the recycling containers and stuff, so that they would sit next to the garbage containers of that, and so it's like little things and big things, that we're talking about. But I think it's pretty exciting about what we're doing, and one small thing was like a social media presence, and so we have a Facebook page and like just sort of educate about, things that people can do to save money, save energy, how you can access like, things about the like, learning about, rebates and solar things, and yeah, how like maybe people can have solar, stuff added onto their homes. And yeah, all kinds of cool things.
I know I learned, through our council of government meeting, we had a rep from NICEAG regionally, and they said that, and don't quote me on a time or date or whatever, but eventually they're gonna give us all, I don't know if it's good or bad, but they're gonna give us all smart meters that can actually show you your electricity usage or gas usage or whatever by the hour in some app. So, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, that's.
So nice it could be
That's
paid
for
for
us
the
until they
equipment.
tell us what we have to do.
Well, right, yeah.
So you're saying nice it could be paying for the equipment?
Yeah, they do all that. I'm sure we're paying for it, but yeah.
Yeah, and everything, I'm saying is just what we pay them, yeah.
You're right,
We
yeah.
pay for everything.
So we're looking to see when the state's gonna send us some money or some stuff so we can get started with the program. And maybe they haven't, like, it could be later this month, or I don't know, like, when it's gonna happen, but like, when they do reach out, we wanna know, like.
Yeah, I haven't even seen an agreement yet.
Okay,
I know for the DRI, that took a year and a half to get.
so once that comes, we wanna, you know, get that, you know, signed and stuff, because the consultants, like, won't start until, right, until I mean, like, they're already helping and stuff, but like, the, you know, us doing like this, the real work, doesn't start till that, and like the committee members and stuff, like our time, you know, we want that to count and all the stuff we're doing too, so we kinda have to wait, like, to play around what we're
So
doing.
you're logging that time?
Yeah, we are already logging our time, but like, there's a lot of stuff that might not actually start till the program starts.
Right.
Well, could you also get, like, on the village, website, have a, you know, heading there where people go to check out the different information?
Yeah,
I
so,
mean, maybe your reports or whatever.
yeah, so right now you can go to, on Facebook, there's a group, and you can join that.
Well,
See
not
what's
everybody's
going
on Facebook.
Yeah, so, you know, the state recommended like using what like people were using in the area, so like in the future we'll have like stuff come out in the Penny Saver, you know, like sort of like little updates about what's going on, and then, so anything that could be posted on the village website, Facebook, and could go to like the Penny Saver and sort of cross-posting onto Twitter and Instagram, if it has like a photo with it. So it's like getting.
Yeah, well, what I was thinking is the village website, or not website, whatever you call it. Village page would be more a permanent, I mean, that people could refer back to it, I mean. Facebook pages kind of disappear after time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should check on that grant agreement, because I haven't even gotten that yet.
Yeah. But I guess some other people said that, you know, it probably is still coming, and that like we haven't missed it, but we're.
A lot of times they take a long time.
Yeah. I think that's it. Well, I guess they just, you know, they wanted to know a little bit more about DRI projects and stuff, like what's in the projects, and like if there's possibilities for, you know, finding like savings or like any, you know, like if like a bus station had, if there is one bus station in town, like if it, if like somehow there could be some sort of, solar or shaded thing or something, like if things like that can be included.
They can just hang out Mercy stories, right?
Yeah, appreciate it. We don't have any more buses anyway.
But there's like a lot of coordination that, you know, like we could maybe look for things on the committee of, you know, where there's, like a lot of our projects are in the floodplain, and so they wanna know about the trails and stuff, and have more input about like any plantings and things, because they're learning about you know, all the stuff. And then there's experts that they call in for it, so, yeah, so they kind of wanna know about how they could talk to James Peckham, or even just like knowing more about what's going on in the designs, so that they know what to ask, what's going on too. So maybe a committee member or somebody who's interested could get in on the Zoom meeting. Can I send them a link when I get it to the weekly meeting, or what do you think?
I don't know, cause those are like our status meeting between us and him, so I don't wanna like invite a ton of people to them, cause having you invite a ton of people to, we get nothing done.
Yeah.
We go from 10 minutes to 6 hours.
Okay.
Well, didn't you say you wanted to go on the Zoom meeting anyway?
Difference between her doing it and the people on that committee doing it.
But, I mean, we'll figure it out, when we have something like that, we can have a meeting with them or whatever.
Okay, or,
But you're kind of the conduit in a way.
yeah, what if if like James could like present to them at some point in time, if it, I don't know. Like, or like, if they could ask him questions at just like one, or like, maybe yeah, I don't know, some point in time, just to coordinate, so that like they can ask questions would be good.
I mean, would they be interested in the kayak launch areas and that information?
Yeah.
Yeah, so probably this next round of projects coming up.
Yeah, I saw that all the design stuff for the trails was just starting to get development for this week. So, yeah, just so that way people could know, give input on like the paths and lininess, and like there's already the one road, but like they want to know about that and help design or something. That's it for my. Oh, wait, no, sorry. One thing. There is in-person training for the zoning and planning boards. So they're required to get 4 hours of training in a year, and this will count for 3 hours. It's March 20th. It's over the county office building in the Hubbard Auditorium. It starts at 4 p.m. and there's dinner provided. But because they have like the new security over there, you have to get in the building, and if you leave, you're locked out. So
Can't bring the fork with you.
yeah, so like yeah.
Don't got a door.
Yeah, you can't like leave and come back in. So like you have to stay. You have to like if you stay for the first session and then the meal or whatever, and then leave. That's it. You can't come back in for the second.
So you can't eat and run.
When is
So
that?
we can run, or you can just run.
March 20th.
March
Starts
20th.
at 4.
3 hours?
Yeah, 3 hours, but there's 2 sessions and a dinner in the middle.
I'm surprised they're letting you do
What's
it.
the title of that workshop?
Training for zoning and planning. Training for zoning and planning is the thing that it is.
Mm-hmm. So hold on. So New York State Department of State Training, Monday, March 20th. Linda Sampson is putting it on.
So what are they having for dinner?
Pizza, cookies, and water, and it's gonna be.
Can't miss
Actually,
that.
oh yeah, so it's gonna be in the legislative conference room and not the Hubbard.
That's small.
I guess then there's food opportunities in there, yeah. So it's 3 hours of training credits.
So we're appointing Kevin to go? No.
Well, this is more for people who are on the planning and zoning boards.
County-wide, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and OHBC too, they have required training hours, so they would also be eligible for this. That's all I got.
I had a question. Did we ever take action on, Julie Nucci's request to make her, to go to a conference and get, and pay for it and make her, whatever it's gonna be with the Climate Smart, the coordinator or whatever? Remember she asked for that?
Yeah, I don't remember.
I looked at my notes, I don't see that we ever took any action on it. It's probably too late for the conference now.
I believe she is going to the conference and would like to be reimbursed for half of the cost.
So we don't have to make her that, someplace I have the thing that she sent us and asked, we don't have to do that right this minute, but we should think about that maybe next time, to look that over again and see if we wanted to do that, and if we want to reimburse her for some of the costs.
I believe the conference is in April.
Yeah. Okay, so we should.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And the other part of it, I just want to add, we discussed that the last meeting, and basically wanted to make sure that it was kosher for everybody that needs to be known about it, that it's okay to do that. We're looking into that part.
Okay. Next time.
Yeah, we could always reimburse her after the fact of the conference too, but like but she did request it, it's a great great thing that.
You know, the floodplain conference, and this one is in Syracuse, they're very informative. I mean, you learn a lot more than you ever expect to learn. And not all of it is good either. Some of it is like, what the hell is this?
You guys good? Fran?
Well, with the cemetery, the Friends of Evergreen, the stained glass windows and the plexiglass are all completed there at the chapel. And so they have a plaque that reads, these 102-year-old stained glass windows were lovingly restored by Sandy Brusek and installed by Mark Brusek with funds generously provided by the Town State Bank Foundation and the Friends of Owego Evergreen Incorporated. Shelley Whitland provided the Lexan covering with funds by the Village of Owego, restored in 2022. If you want to take a look at it. They plan on hanging that on the east wall of the, inside the chapel.
That's nice.
Yeah, and, yeah, we've been, John, Ridgewood, he's been, in communication with Fred, like Fred was saying, they're doing some of the cleanup there in the cemetery. A few other odd jobs that we need to get a piece of gutter on the back side of the chapel, and that's just a matter of, as the, DPW has time when they're not plowing, since it's the light season this year. And, so we're meeting with, Fred on, March 17th to, go over what our goals and plans are for this year and in the future. And then the, cemetery committee is also, their general meeting is going to be on March 27th here at 5:30. That's all for today.
Charles?
Let's see, I think we covered everything for DPW. I attended the OSHA training past Saturday, and it was all entertaining as I remembered it being. It was a great turnout. I mean, even with the weather as it was. Breakfast was good. It was hosted, facilitated by Eric Hawkins, did a great job. Informative. It was quicker than I thought it would be, but it was very informative. And I'm glad I had attended that. Other than that,
And number 3's had their banquet last Saturday night.
Yep.
It's delicious.
Yep, we still haven't had ours yet, or even planned it. I know. So we have 2%
Five's had a whole bunch of people that we talk about that.
Yeah. But, yeah, other than that, that's all I have to say about that.
Good.
Good.
Communications, I think all I got is, everybody probably knows Cindy sent an email. NICOM is coming up May 17th through 19th. If anyone wants to go, you can get that dirt. Sagamore. Now, I don't think I got it. Mayor's report, nothing crazy, still alive.
Just tell them that. So everybody pretty much in the village took the CPR courses. Like my office, DPW, sewer department, maybe everybody except maybe one person, all certified in adult, child, the machine, the defibrillator machine. So we're planning on getting one. We're gonna hang in the hallway there, and then they would like one in the DPW building over there. So we'll have a couple.
I feel safe now.
Interesting fact, the defibrillator does not like start your heart, it actually stops your heart, so it gets back in its own rhythm. So it's just free tidbit, so if you get to that class.
You learn something.
I thought it was like jump starting your heart, but it really
Did you go to the tune of Staying Alive?
Oh, yeah. Heart can be. So it was interesting, so everybody in the, pretty much in the village now, it's CPR. Certainly. Good. Thanks.
Okay. So you got that besides public comment? You got public comment?
Paul, you got something?
Perfect. Everybody here for a show, all right?
And the election is what?
Oh, yeah, the election, it's the day after our next meeting.
March 21st.
21st.
And the mayor will,
Noon to 9 right here.
he'll do a blast on the code red,
Yeah.
whatever we call it.
Code red.
Danger, danger.
Just because it's
Danger,
different.
danger, hazard, don't go anywhere near Elm Street, don't go anywhere near the
Right.
post office.
So it's right here, which will be different than over at the fire station.
We sent out absentee ballots, I think 80, did you get one? Yeah. So we all sent out one this week.
Move to adjourn.
All right. See you guys next time.
Thanks, Nate, thanks, Hank.